A new series begins, titled Rappa, the delinquent ninja scrolls, set against the backdrop of a modern-day city. In the bustling streets, we see a couple of delinquents, one with a distinctive pompadour and another with long hair and sunglasses, looking for trouble. They corner a lone, spiky-haired student, trying to intimidate him. Believing he's just a middle schooler, they smugly assert their dominance as high schoolers. However, the boy is unfazed. He looks them over and scoffs, correctly identifying them not as high schoolers, but as common street delinquents. Angered by the disrespect, the delinquent with the pompadour throws a powerful punch directly at the boy's face. His friend cheers him on, praising Masa for the hit and commenting on the boy's punchable face, assuming their victory. But the punch never lands. To the delinquent's shock, the spiky-haired boy effortlessly catches the fist just inches from his face. The boy stands his ground, completely stopping the delinquent's momentum, his arm held firmly in the air. Masa starts to sweat, realizing he's in deep trouble as the boy flashes a terrifying, confident grin. With incredible speed, the boy retaliates, driving his own fist deep into Masa's stomach. Before the other delinquent can even react, the boy spins around and lands a devastating kick, taking out both of his attackers in an instant. Slinging his bag over his shoulder, the boy casually tells the downed delinquents to listen up and not to come after him again. As he walks away, he leaves them with a chilling warning. The next time they mess with him, he might just end up killing them. The scene shifts to a high school covered in graffiti, where a new character, a delinquent leader, is in disbelief, hearing that his men got their asses kicked by a middle schooler. The two beaten delinquents, Masa and his friend, nervously report back to their boss, Kazama. At their hideout, their leader, Kazama, listens to their story with a stern expression, clearly unimpressed that they were defeated. Kazama's expression turns to anger as he learns that his men tried to beat up an outsider, questioning their actions. He reminds his trembling subordinates of the Kazama family motto, a code they are sworn to live by. The motto is simple: never threaten the ordinary folk. Masa repeats the rule, acknowledging it as their pride. Kazama emphasizes the rule, stating that whether you're a delinquent or not, you don't go after outsiders for no reason. His underlings can only agree in terror. Then, to enforce his point, Kazama delivers a swift punishment to his own men for breaking the rule, shocking the other gang members. Afterward, Kazama nonchalantly complains that he's been getting bored, having already taken control of all the schools in the area during his first semester. However, hearing how strong the middle schooler is, Kazama's interest is piqued. A smirk crosses his face as he declares he wants to test the boy's strength himself. His underlings are ecstatic, showing their leader mad respect for his fighting spirit. Fired up, Kazama declares they're going to scope out this mysterious middle schooler. At that very moment, the target of their hunt is an Ikebukuro, completely oblivious to the approaching danger. The spiky-haired boy is simply thrilled to have snagged some super rare novels, showing a nerdy side that contrasts sharply with his fighting prowess. As Rappa walks through the station, he muses that he prefers new books to secondhand ones. Unbeknownst to him, Kazama and his gang are closing in from behind. Masa spots their target and excitedly points him out. Kazama-kun, that's him. The gang has finally found the middle schooler they were looking for. Rappa turns, his expression turning cold as he recognizes the delinquents. He reminds them of his previous warning. I thought I told you guys. Come after me again, and I'll kill you. While Masa and his friend flinch at the death threat, their leader Kazama stares back with a fierce, unwavering intensity. A smirk spreads across Kazama's face. He admits he only came because his boys wanted a rematch, but for him, finding someone this strong is the real jackpot. As the two face off, a mysterious man in a suit observes from the crowd. He senses the powerful aura emanating from them, their attitude, their bloodlust, and their readiness to fight. Kazama declares that Rappa isn't a normal person, but a fellow delinquent. Rappa retorts that he hates being lumped in with scum, but Kazama is thrilled, saying that strong delinquents are his favorite. Kazama throws a wild punch, demanding to know who Rappa is, but Rappa seems to throw the question right back. not caring who this new opponent is. With lightning speed, Rappa ducks under Kazama's punch, getting in close for a counterattack. Kazama is stunned. He can't believe Rappa not only dodged his attack, but is already launching a counter of his own. Rappa's attack connects, sending him spinning and his school bag flying from the force of the blow. Kazama is shocked by the impact, and even his delinquent underling can't believe the immense power behind Rappa's strike. The fight is a blur of motion. Kazama reels from the hit as Rappa follows through with another blindingly fast attack. Rappa leaps into the air, delivering a powerful flying kick that slams squarely into Kazama. Despite the hit, Kazama is thrilled. Hot damn! He thinks, a wide grin on his face. He recognizes that Rappa isn't just some ordinary delinquent. The onlookers, including Masa and his friend, are speechless. The fight is happening so fast that they can barely make out what's happening. Kazama is ecstatic. Forgetting his own pride, he compliments Rappa, yelling, "Nice, nice, nice. You're pretty damn good, middle schooler." Infuriated at being called a middle schooler again, Rappa lunges forward, screaming, "I'm in high school, asshole," as he delivers another vicious blow. Kazama analyzes the attack in an instant. He's shocked that Rappa didn't block, instead opting for a counter aimed at his carotid artery. He realizes Rappa is fighting to kill. Suddenly, a shadow with razor-sharp teeth erupts from Rappa's leg. It's a secret technique, Ninpuuchou, Homaru. For a split second, Kazama sees his life flash before his eyes, thinking, "I'm dead." Despite the imminent danger, Kazama remains surprisingly calm. With a confident smirk, he prepares to end the fight, thinking, "Sorry, big boy. This is where it ends." Just as Rappa's deadly hand is about to strike his neck, Kazama catches it, stopping the ninja technique in its tracks. Rappa is in complete disbelief, letting out a stun wah. He can't understand how his finishing move was stopped so easily. Surrounded by a powerful aura, Kazama effortlessly holds Rappa's hand, demonstrating a level of strength that far surpasses his opponent's. The deadly ninja technique is stopped cold. Kazama looks down on the thwarted Rappa with an expression of pure dominance. In the background, his underlings, Masa and his friend, can only stare in absolute shock and awe, finally understanding the true gap in power between their leader and this new challenger. Rappa is in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. He can't comprehend how his attack was caught, whispering, "What? Did he just—" As Kazama's grip tightens. From Rappa's perspective, he is completely outmatched, held firmly in place by Kazama's superior strength. Rappa feels a strange, powerful sensation emanating from Kazama's hand. He realizes that this isn't just raw strength he's feeling. In a moment of clarity, Rappa understands. Kazama is defending himself with a type of smoke ninjutsu. He realizes with a shock that his opponent is from the same secret world of ninjas as he is. Now knowing he's facing a fellow ninja, Rappa unleashes another secret move. He forms a hand sign and activates Ninpuuchou, Kageshibari, causing shadow chains to erupt from the ground and bind Kazama. Rappa smirks, confident that he's finally won. Hell yeah, got him. Stop him dead in his tracks. He thinks, believing his shadow paralysis technique is foolproof. To the ordinary eyes of Masa and his friend, the two fighters have simply frozen in place. They are completely unaware of the ninjutsu battle unfolding before them, wondering why Kazama suddenly stopped moving. But Rappa's victory is short-lived. To his horror, Kazama grins menacingly, completely unfazed by the chains. "Nice. Very nice. You're good," he says, his voice dripping with amusement. With a surge of power, Kazama begins to move, straining against the shadow chains. Rappa can only watch in terror, exclaiming, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. How the hell's he still moving?" Rappa panics, revealing that his Kageshibari has been powerful enough to stop dump trucks before. He can't believe it's failing now. He wonders if it's Kazama's smoke ninjutsu, but then the horrifying truth dawns on him. He realizes Kazama isn't using a technique to counter the chains. He is simply overpowering the ninjutsu with pure, unadulterated strength. Kazama shatters the chains. With a wide grin, he concedes, "You're one hell of a delinquent. You got me." Rappa has been defeated, unable to move, as Kazama's men watch, stunned. Sometime after the fight, the scene transitions to a quiet city street, the intense battle now over. The setting changes to a local cafe. A waiter works behind the counter as someone off-screen asks, "HM? My name?" The two fighters, Kazama and the protagonist, are now sitting together. Having acknowledged each other's strength, Kazama formally introduces himself, "Kazama Endo. How about you?" The protagonist, no longer hiding his identity, finally reveals his name, Hachisuka Ichiya. Kazama is still impressed, saying Hachisuka is incredibly strong for a middle schooler. Hachisuka, visibly annoyed, once again has to correct him, insisting he's in high school and not a delinquent. Kazama suddenly bursts out laughing, apologizing for not listening. He admits he was just overjoyed to finally find someone strong enough to potentially beat him in a one-on-one fight. The tension completely dissolves as they both share a laugh, with Kazama admitting he got carried away by the hype of their battle. The mood shifts as Hachisuka gets serious. He looks at Kazama and asks the question that's been burning in his mind. "You're a ninja, Ainsha?" Kazama's playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a sharp, intense focus as he takes a sip of his drink. Kazama confirms it, explaining that the paralysis Hachisuka felt was his ninjutsu. He then turns the tables, revealing, "'Cause I'm a ninja, too," leaving the rest of the question hanging in the air. Instead of understanding, Hachisuka is suddenly struck with fear. The revelation that Kazama is a ninja makes him think of something completely different, and he mutters, "Scary." Hachisuka completely misinterprets the gravity of the situation. He panics, thinking Kazama is trying to sell him something like occult charms or pottery, and stammers that he's not interested and doesn't have the money for it. While Kazama frantically tries to explain it's not a sales pitch, Hachisuka internally starts to connect Kazama's smoke powers to ninjutsu. This bizarre reaction leads Kazama to a bewildering new question. Is it possible Hachisuka has no idea that he himself is a ninja? Kazama tries to explain, telling Hachisuka his name means he's a stray ninja, not belonging to any famous clan like Hattori, Sarutobi, Koga, or IGA. Hachisuka has a moment of realization. This insanely strong stray ninja could be the ultimate partner for the Hachisuka clan to win the upcoming Ninsun, the Ninja War. Seeing his opportunity, Hachisuka leans in with a sly grin and asks, "Do you want to fight even stronger guys than me?" Kazama is instantly hooked, jumping at the chance. "Stronger than you? Deadass?" he yells, startling a nearby waitress. "I do. Let me do it with M right now." Hachisuka calms him down. Internally, he notes that Kazama is a simple-minded fighting junkie who took the bait perfectly, though he admits that's a harsh way to put it. Hachisuka lays out his first condition for this partnership. "First, you've got to enroll in my school," he says, leaving Kazama confused. He presents Jinshin Private Secondary Academy, explaining that among its 1,500 regular students, there are also many ninja lurking in the shadows. Kazama is still comically flustered, thinking only of thugs and delinquents. Hachisuka reassures him, promising that if he comes to his school, he won't be let down. Standing up, Hachisuka makes his formal offer, appealing to Kazama's boredom and promising him a chance to fight opponents who are truly out of the ordinary. Hachisuka describes the students at his school as being on another level, able to outperform any conventional martial artist, whether they practice karate, boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, judo, or kendo. He lays down the ultimate challenge. If Kazama can beat all the delinquents at Jinshin and conquer the school, he will truly become the strongest high schooler around. Leaning across the table, Hachisuka makes his final pitch. "What do you think, Endo?" he asks, guaranteeing that Kazama won't be bored for the next 2.5 years of high school. With a devilish grin, Hachisuka adds the ultimate temptation, the chance to fight superb high school delinquents whenever and wherever he wants. Kazama is visibly shaking with excitement, completely fired up by the prospect. Hachisuka asks if the idea excites him, and Kazama grits his teeth, admitting it does. The deal is set. Hachisuka extends his hand and says, "All right, bet." Kazama eagerly reaches out to accept. As they shake on it, Hachisuka declares their shared goal. "Let's take the top." Together, their firm handshake seals the pact, marking the beginning of a powerful new alliance. The scene shifts tonight, showing a quiet suburban house with a nameplate that reads Kazama on the front gate. Kazama arrives home late to find his father drinking and smoking. "Come home pretty late today?" Ed, his father asks. Kazama retorts, "And you're already buzzing, Pops?" Without skipping a beat, Kazama nonchalantly tells his father, "Oh, also, I'm transferring schools." His father is completely floored. "Wait, transfer?" He sputters, questioning if Kazama is even smart enough and what kind of school would possibly accept him with no strings attached. Kazama tries to remember the school's name, muttering, Jin Shin High School or something like that. Upon hearing the name, Jin Shin, Kazama's father panics. He drops his beer can, shouting, "Wait, where? Where did you hear that, Dash?" Staring at a kid's ninja show on TV, Kazama's father realizes he's been too careless. His thoughts reveal his connection to the ninja world as he recalls hearing that the Tokugawa clan passed the baton recently. As Kazama takes his shirt off upstairs, revealing a tattoo on his back, his father laments his failure. He had tried to raise his son completely separate from the ninja world, but it seems a clan has finally found him. As Kazama heads to his room, his father, now identified as Fuma Kotaro the 19th, looks on with a knowing, proud grin. He accepts his son's fate, remarking, "This may just be our Fuma blood at work." Kazama's destiny as a ninja is inescapable. On the grounds of the wealthy Tokugawa family, a group of thieves begins their infiltration. Confident that the security is lax and the residents are just a bunch of old folks, they believe this will be an easy score. As they climb the walls, one of them spots a kunai flying through the air. The shuriken embeds itself in the ground, landing just inches away from the thief's foot with a soft thud. The thief, whose foot was nearly pierced, screams out, not in pain, but because the weapon is intensely hot. His accomplice looks on, completely baffled by his partner's strange reaction. From the shadows, the guardians of the estate make their presence known. An old man warns the terrified hoodlums that by invading this place, they must be ready for the dire consequences that will follow. The scene shifts to an opulent room where Tokugawa Kunisada, the 24th Tokugawa Shadow Shogun, nonchalantly declares, "You're all fired." Her retainers, the high-ranking ninja Hattori Hanzo and Momochi Tamba, are left utterly speechless by her sudden decree. A young woman with glasses, identified as Hattori Mikusu, urgently pleads with Kunisada-sama to reconsider her decision. Meanwhile, Hattori Hanzo is still too stunned to form a coherent thought. Hattori Hanzo finally finds his voice, loudly protesting the decision. He argues that the ninja have served as the Onawabin for the Tokugawa family for generations, only to be met with a look of complete disinterest from Kunisada. Kunisada's aura shifts, becoming intensely menacing. She silences Hanzo with a sharp command to sit down, "You rat." Beside her, Mikusu immediately and obediently acknowledges the order. Kunisada glares at the one who dared to question her, asking what exactly their aim is by ordering about her, the 24th Tokugawa Shadow Shogun. Drenched in a cold sweat, Hanzo feels the crushing weight of her authority. He asks if this means they should resort to slitting their own throats in secret to satisfy her. Another elderly ninja, Fujibayashi Nagato, drops to his knees. He boldly implores Kunisada-sama to at least provide them with the reason for their dismissal. Kunisada casually agrees to give a reason, calling for Mikusu to present it. Mikusu acknowledges and begins tapping on a digital device. Mikusu reveals the shocking truth to the three kneeling IGA ninja. In the 18 years leading up to Kunisada's ascension, they have committed repeated acts of sexual harassment against her, with well over 1,000 incidents on record. The harassment wasn't limited to just one place. They spied on her in her own shower and even her bedroom, violating her most private spaces. Mikusu continues, listing other locations like her school's locker room and public pools. All this was done by the ninja, using their powers under the flimsy pretext of personal protection. With disgust, Mikusu states that even if one of the culprits is her own father, this disgraceful behavior is nothing short of criminal, and she cannot defend it. The image shows the three old ninjas shamelessly peeking at Kunisada. Two of the ninja try to justify their actions as just being part of the job. Mikusu tells them they should be thankful Kunisada hasn't taken this up with the authorities and is doing nothing worse than simply firing them. A concerned Fujibayashi Nagato asks what will become of the Tokugawa Anawaban. He worries that Kunisada is planning to appoint ninja from the rival Koga clan. Kunisada retorts that her personal guard ought to not be a bunch of slimy old freaks like them. Honestly, she couldn't care less if they come from IGA, Koga, or anywhere else. She lays out her conditions for their replacements. They should be around the same age as her and Mikusu, and their gender doesn't matter. In exchange for their service, she demands they be the absolute strongest shinobi, individuals who will not bring shame upon the name of the Tokugawa Anawaban. The three disgraced ninja can only stare in disbelief. With this proclamation from Tokugawa Kunisada, a shock ran through all the ninja in Japan. As personal guards to the Tokugawa family for generations, the position of Anawaban is a lofty one indeed among the clans of ninja. It has largely been dominated by two major ninja factions, the IGA Nin and the Koga Nin. A map illustrates the territories of the great ninja clans. The Igi-ryu, including the Hattori, Momochi, and Fujibayashi, and the Koga-ryu, with clans like Saratobi, Kirigakure, and Mochizuki. For generations, ninja from clans outside, these two major factions were distanced from the honor of serving the shogun. However, this single demand for the absolute strongest became the tipping point, completely upending the long-held balance of power and opening the door for a new generation of warriors. This was the beginning of the competition for a most prestigious position, waged by high school ninja, with the sole demand for the strongest among them, bound not by pedigree nor by anything else. This event would come to be known as the Tokugawa Anawaban Ninja Selection, or otherwise, the Ninsun. And the stage for this momentous Ninsun would be Jinshin Private Secondary Academy, an educational institution financed and managed by the powerful Tokugawa family. On the outside, it operates as any ordinary private high school. But in reality, it's a specialized institution from which more than 95% of the ninja in Japan had graduated. For any ninja, Jinshin Academy was an exceptional institution. This was because for students from ninja clans, the school not only covered their tuition and provided exemptions for exams, but also offered amicable support in higher education and employment after graduation, all courtesy of the Tokugawa. And with that, we enter Class 1B, where the teacher introduces a new transfer student, Kazama Endo. With his intense gaze and delinquent-like appearance, his new classmates immediately judge him, whispering that he seems super mean and super dumb. A fellow student with spiky blonde hair internally panics, wishing for Endo not to stand out. He knows that most of the people in this school are just plain, ordinary students. The teacher instructs Kazama to take the open desk in the back. As he walks down the aisle, a tough-looking student with a bowl-cut hairstyle clicks his tongue and unsubtle sticks his foot out to trip the new guy. As Kazama is tripped, his friend silently begs him to just ignore the bully. The delinquent with the bowl-cut smirks, thinking he successfully provoked the new student with the oldest trick in the book. However, Kazama does not ignore it. In one swift and brutal motion, he grabs the bully's head and smashes it face first into the wooden desk with terrifying force. The bully is left bloodied and stunned, letting out a choked gasp. Kazama stares down at him with a cold, indifferent expression, while his friend looks on in wide-eyed shock. The student, whose name is Kinoshita, begins to scream in agony. As the other students look on in horror, Kazama simply turns and walks away towards his seat as if nothing happened. As students shout for the teacher, thinking Kinoshita is having a seizure, Kazama's friend realizes what just happened. He thinks to himself that for a second, he seriously thought Kazama had killed him. But he understands that Kazama just used a decent amount of bloodlust to make him imagine his own death. Later, outside the school building, Kazama and his friend are hanging out. Kazama holds a pack of Shinobi brand cigarettes, a detail that hints at his background. His friend comments that he had a hole back in there, admitting he thought Kazama was going to snap and beat Kinoshita half to death. Kazama replies nonchalantly that he wouldn't, because the guy was an outsider and normie. Kazama explains that his family has a motto: they should never go after those kinds of people. He then reveals that his dad has made him smoke these cigarettes ever since he was little, and he'd get beaten if he didn't. His friend is baffled, questioning why he smokes because of a family principle. Kazama explains a quote from a famous figure in the past: "Since we're so strong, we of the Kazama family must never let our scent of tobacco die out, lest we become able to conceal ourselves." He finishes by admitting that he knows his family is weird. His friend wonders where he's heard that saying before. Meanwhile, Kazama tries to light a cigarette, but his lighter won't produce a flame, confusing him. Suddenly, the lighter erupts in a huge, uncontrolled burst of flame, startling Kazama. Kazama's friend, Haken, jumps back, yelling about how scary and hot the sudden flare-up was. He looks up and sees someone approaching, realizing exactly who was responsible for manipulating the flame. A charismatic and imposing figure with distinctive two-toned hair and flame-patterned pants strolls confidently towards them, a smirk on his face. The newcomer grins, showing off sharp, fang-like teeth. He taunts Haken, asking if he's going to do his job and report this ninja to the student council. Haken stammers, addressing the imposing figure as Ishikawa-senpai. He nervously apologizes, explaining that with tensions running high because of the Nin sun, it's been hard for them to keep tabs on all the ninja from smaller clans. Haken panics internally. He isn't worried about Ishikawa finding out that Endo is a ninja, but if Ishikawa discovers how powerful Endo is, it could be disastrous. They might be seen as a new faction trying to compete in the Ninsen. Haken tries to run interference, stammering that Ishikawa-senpai has it all wrong, but he's cut off. The intimidating senior student ignores him completely, his focus locked on the new guy. With a predatory smile, he asks for Endo's full name, leaving Haken stunned and speechless. Dismissing Haken as an eyesore, Ishikawa tells him to get lost, making it clear he was only interested in the transfer student. As he speaks, an intense pressure radiates from him. Haken freezes in terror, realizing Ishikawa is about to unleash his ninjutsu directly on him. Just as Ishikawa's power surges, Kazama Endo intervenes, grabbing his hand. He coolly asks what he's doing, and if he's picking a fight with his friend, Hachisuka Ichiya. Endo tightens his grip on Ishikawa's wrist, his intervention halting the immediate conflict. He then makes it clear, picking a fight with his bro, Hachisuka, means picking a fight with him. Hachisuka looks on, stunned by his friend's bold declaration. Without another word, Endo throws a powerful punch directly at Ishikawa, who seems surprised by the sudden attack. The blow lands, but Ishikawa seems completely unfazed, remarking that it felt like kicking a tire. Endo, in turn, is taken aback by his opponent's incredible durability. Smoke emanates from the spot where Endo's fist connected. Ishikawa casually cracks the knuckles on his hand, preparing to retaliate. Ishikawa strikes back with a blindingly fast attack of his own. The attack connects, and Endo feels a jolt like static electricity. Ishikawa nonchalantly warns him to give a heads-up next time, while Hachisuka watches, completely dumbfounded by the display of power. Hachisuka internally panics, yelling at Endo for picking a fight with a known ninja. He realizes Endo is a berserker and worries that drawing the student council's attention now means they can forget about winning the Nin-sun. Still, he admits to himself that Endo did save him. Hachisuka decides it's too late for apologies and that the best way to minimize the harm now is to go all in. With a face of crazed determination, Hachisuka yells at Endo to beat Ishikawa-senpai's ass until there's nothing left and show him who's boss. Endo listens with a silent, stoic expression. Ishikawa feigns shock, asking Haken if that's any way to talk to a senpai and fellow student council member. Endo, still feeling the effects of the last attack, mutters that his opponent is a ninja, or more specifically, a lightning-type delinquent. Hachisuka confirms this from a safe distance, stating that Ishikawa-senpai is indeed a lightning-type ninja. Ishikawa mockingly invites them both to attack him at once. Hachisuka, however, wisely decides to stay out of it, claiming that he thinks Endo wants a one-on-one fight. But that's not his only reason for staying back. Hachisuka scans the area, knowing that there's one more ninja lurking nearby. His eyes land on the burnout lighter. He deduces that the explosion from earlier wasn't Ishikawa's doing, but a fire-type move from a hidden third party. Hachisuka explains that with bloodline ninjutsu, each ninja typically has only one elemental type. Therefore, the lighter explosion means a fire-type ninja is present. He then calls out, revealing he already knows it's Momochi's senpai. A hidden girl is startled that he knew she was there. A girl with long, dark twintails and striped socks steps out from her hiding spot. Hachisuka bluntly tells her she isn't cute at all, much to her annoyance. The four key players in this confrontation are now assembled. Ishikawa Jira, the student council VP from the IGA clan. Kazama Endo, an unaffiliated delinquent. Hachisuka Ichiya, an unaffiliated student council member. And Momochi Meru, another student council member from the IGA clan. Meru warns the first years not to get too close, or she'll burn them. But Hachisuka welcomes her try. With the sides now clear, Ishikawa Jira declares that this is as good a time as any to teach them some respect for their seniors. The battle begins in earnest. The lightning-type ninja, Ishikawa Jira, versus the ultimate delinquent, Kazama Endo. Jira leaps into action, closing the distance in an instant. Jira unleashes a powerful kick, which Endo blocks. The impact knocks Endo's cigarette from his mouth, but he holds his ground. Jira is impressed, recognizing the sensation of hitting an immovable object and acknowledging Endo's skill. As Endo dodges another strike, Jira observes that his opponent is covering his whole body in smoke, using it as a cushion to defend himself. He notes that a bloodline ninjutsu that allows one to manipulate smoke is a rare sight indeed. Impressed by his opponent's rare ability, Jira asks the new kid for his name once more. This time, Endo replies coolly, Kazama Endo. Upon hearing the name, the pieces click into place for Jira, a smoke-type ninja named Kazama. He has a moment of sudden realization and declares that Endo must be from the Fuma clan. Endo denies the accusation, stating flatly that his name is just Kazama. Jira muses aloud, wondering if Endo is one of those individuals who is a ninja but doesn't even know it himself. Jira smiles, finding the whole situation intriguing. He decides to change his mind and calls off the fight, telling Kazama-kun that he'll let him off the hook for today. But Kazama isn't having it. He asks what the hell Jira is going on about, stating that he doesn't get to be the one to decide when they're finished. He takes a step forward to continue the fight. As Kazama tries to advance, he bumps into an invisible, rippling barrier, stopping him in his tracks. He feels the invisible wall with his hands, confused. Jira smugly asks if he can't get any closer, explaining that, just like Endo, he has his own ways of protecting himself. Jira reveals his technique, Ninpuuchou, Denji Kyozetsu, or electromagnetic rejection. He explains to Endo that, in simple terms, he's now like a magnet that resists him. With the fight effectively paused by his technique, Jira changes his tone and formally invites Kazama Endo-kun to have a little chat. Below, They're seen walking into the school building together. Meanwhile, on the stairs, Momochi Meru teases Hachisuka for bringing a senpai of the opposite sex all the way up here. She cheekily adds that lucky for him, she prefers easy guys. They arrive on the school rooftop, and Meru immediately points out the disadvantage for Hachisuka. There's barely any shadow for him to use his ninjutsu with. Meru patronizingly asks if he's ready for this, suggesting he think of it as a handicap. Hachisuka angrily retorts that he doesn't want to do this in the first place. He explains that he has no choice. His goal is to get Ishikawa's senpai to cool down, and to do that, he can't have the student council finding out about Endo's true fighting ability. Hachisuka resolves that keeping the two of them separated is the best option. Meru, however, sees this as an opportunity, wishing he would just drop his ego and join the IGA clan already. Meru makes the first move, dashing forward while unleashing her fire-based ninjutsu. Hachisuka notes that she's keeping her distance, and that with the sun still high in the sky, there isn't much shadow for him to work with. Hachisuka counters by summoning a creature from his own shadow, Ninpuuchou, Kaganemazu, the shadow catfish. Meru responds in kind, creating 3 fiery demon heads with her Ninpuuchou, Onikubi. The shadow catfish lunges forward, devouring 2 of the fiery Oni heads in a single gulp. Meru smirks, impressed that he managed to eat 2 of her creations, but points out that one still got away. Hachisuka clicks his tongue in frustration. The 3rd Oni head strikes Hachisuka, hitting him squarely in the side. Hachisuka yells out in pain as his clothes and skin are seared by the attack. Meru taunts him, noting that with so little shade on the roof, he doesn't have enough shadow to even put up a proper guard. She flicks her lighter, preparing another fiery assault. Meru forms a hand sign and unleashes her next technique, Ninpuuchou, Kanguruma, the flame wheel. Hachisuka is horrified, questioning if she's out of her mind to use a move that strong at such a close distance. She lets out a crazed laugh, confirming that he's right. She mockingly tells him he'd better use up every last puny bit of his shadow to defend himself. As she prepares to launch her attack, a voice weakly calls out from the doorway, telling her to stop. Meru ignores the plea, shouting that it's too late for her to stop now. She unleashes the flame wheel, yelling, "Eat this, punk!" Hachisuka clarifies what he was trying to say. He wasn't begging her to stop for his own sake. He was warning her to stop for her own safety. As her powerful fire attack illuminates the area, he realizes it's casting a thick, massive shadow on the ground behind him. It's too late for Meru to realize her fatal mistake. In this battle, a split-second decision is all it takes. The massive shadow creature, empowered by the light from her own attack, rises up and consumes her completely. Hachisuka smirks at Kazama, revealing the nature of his power. He explains that it's now magnetically impossible for Kazama to get any closer, as an unseen force holds him in place. Hachisuka elaborates on his technique, comparing it to 2 magnets of the same polarity repelling one another. He's created a North Pole magnetic field around himself, and has switched Kazama's polarity to north as well, making any approach impossible. However, Kazama ignores the explanation and tries to push through the magnetic barrier with pure brute force. Hachisuka looks on, annoyed, asking if his opponent has even been listening. A close-up shows Kazama's face twisted in a grimace of pure effort, veins bulging as he fights against the invisible repulsive force. Hachisuka sighs, commenting on how difficult Kazama is being when all he wants to do is talk. Below, Kazama remembers the words of someone named Ichiya. With a ferocious grin, Kazama reveals that he knows all the delinquents at this school possess special abilities, which he calls super delinquent powers. Hachisuka is completely baffled by this revelation, repeating the strange term super, Delin, with a look of utter confusion. Hachisuka recalls Ichiya mentioning that these superpowers only manifest in truly strong delinquents, something he never noticed since he was always surrounded by weaklings. Meanwhile, Kazama ignores him and prepares for another assault. Charging forward with a battle cry, Kazama's simple-minded, head-on approach seems to stun Hachisuka, who questions if he's insanely stupid. Despite his bewilderment, Hachisuka admits to himself that he doesn't dislike such straightforward guys. He braces himself as Kazama charges in, shouting that Ichiya told him to deliver a beating. Kazama throws a mighty punch, but he is stopped dead in his tracks just before impact, his face straining against the invisible magnetic wall once more. Realizing he can't break through, Kazama admits this is as far as he can go. Hachisuka seems impressed, noting that anyone else would have been blown away by now, and announces that it's his turn to use his powers. Suddenly, Kazama unleashes his own ability. A massive fist made of swirling smoke erupts from his arm, shooting towards Hachisuka. Hachisuka is shocked by the sudden appearance of the giant fist of smoke. He recognizes it as a smoke technique, the bloodline ninjutsu of the Fuma clan, allowing them to materialize and manipulate smoke. To evade the attack, Hachisuka uses his power on himself, repelling his body away from the impact zone, just as Kazama's smoke fist smashes into the school building. Hachisuka admits it was a close call, explaining that he repelled himself to avoid a direct hit. Now clinging to the building, he touches the wall to cancel out its polarity, changing it from north to south. Looking stumped, Hachisuka wonders what to do with Kazama before effortlessly leaping up the side of the building to hang out on the wall. From the ground, Kazama clicks his tongue in frustration, realizing he doesn't have enough smoke left to form another attack. Staring up at his opponent, Kazama acknowledges that Hachisuka is not just strange, but completely unfathomable, lamenting that he can't climb up there with just one arm. Despite this, Kazama glares up defiantly, challenging his opponent to come down from the wall. Hachisuka decides to end the fight for the day. He cheekily admits that while he intended to teach Kazama a lesson, he ended up learning one instead. Enraged, Kazama yells that Hachisuka started this fight and can't just run away. Hachisuka laughs off the accusation and gives Kazama a friendly warning. He should be careful not to use his visible smoke arm in front of regular students. Leaning through a third-floor window, Hachisuka tells the new kid to learn to conceal himself like a ninja, which only serves to further annoy Kazama. After making his unconventional entrance, Hachisuka calmly walks down the school hallway, his mind fixated on one thing: the Fuma clan, the source of Kazama's power. Two girls watch him pass, stunned by his sudden appearance. The students can barely believe their eyes, whispering about how Hakken just came through a third-floor window. As one remarks that he's scouted someone crazy, Hachisuka simply gestures for silence, already deep in thought about this powerful new rival. After his explosive attack, the smoke clears, revealing Kazama's intense, focused expression as he assesses the aftermath of the fight. Walking away from the battle, Kazama reflects on his opponent's surprising strength. He muses that the Fuma ninja clan, his own lineage, were historically driven from the public eye because their power was deemed too formidable. Meanwhile, his opponent, Hachisuka, smirks. He reflects that Kazama's arrival has just made the ongoing secret war, the Ninsen, far more interesting. A grin spreads across Kazama's face. He's glad he came to this school, realizing that his friend Ichiya was right. It's crawling with strong delinquents for him to fight. He feels a rush of excitement, realizing that in this new environment, this paradise of the strong, he can finally fight for real without holding anything back. The scene changes. In a classroom, a bully with a bowl-cut haircut named Manta dangles a keychain, taunting a fellow student for bringing toys to school. The victim, a timid boy with glasses named Kinoshita, sits bruised on the floor. He weakly explains that it's a character keyring from his favorite show, Ninkuma Manjiro, and timidly asks for it back. Manta and his cronies surround Kinoshita, questioning if the keychain is expensive. Kinoshita stammers that it's not particularly rare or valuable. Losing interest, Manta declares the keychain worthless and carelessly chucks it back towards Kinoshita, who begins to thank him in relief. But before he can grab it, another bully's foot comes down hard, crushing the precious keychain. Kinoshita screams in despair. The onlookers comment on the cruelty of the act, with one remarking how nasty it is, while another callously wishes Kinoshita would just disappear. In a desperate move, Kinoshita grabs the bully's leg, pleading for him to move his foot. The bully reacts with disgust, appalled that the little shit would dare touch him. Enraged, the bully viciously punches Kinoshita, calling him a stupid, ugly nerd and sending him sprawling across the floor. Suddenly, the bully Manta is blocked by Kazama, who has appeared at a nearby desk. Kazama casually tells Manta that he is in his way. Recognizing the newcomer, Manta freezes in his tracks, stammering Kazama's name with a look of pure fear. Kazama calmly points to his own desk, which has been knocked over, and asks Manta if he did it. Manta quickly tries to lie, but the other students immediately point out that he was, in fact, responsible. Kazama then turns his attention to the beaten-up students on the floor, asking Kinoshita why he's in such a state. Kinoshita, still terrified, can't bring himself to answer. His gaze then falls upon the broken keychain. His usual apathy vanishes as he instantly identifies it as a doll of the Shirokuma ninja from the TV show Ninkuma Manjuro. Kinoshita is flabbergasted that the fearsome transfer student knows about his favorite show. Kazama explains that it happens to be one of his old man's favorite shows, too. Hearing this, Kinoshita's entire personality flips. His eyes sparkle with delight as he realizes he's found a fellow fan, an otaku, and excitedly asks if Kazama's father watches the show live. The two instantly bond, chatting excitedly about the show. Manta, looking utterly lost, interrupts to ask for Kinoshita's name, having already forgotten it. Kazama's friendly demeanor vanishes as he turns back to the bullies. He states that stomping all over something his father likes, right in front of him, is the exact same thing as picking a fight with him. He finishes the threat with a glare, calling the bully Shroomhead. At Kazama's terrifying threat, Manta's cronies immediately break down in fear, apologizing profusely and swearing they had no idea who the keychain belonged to. The scene transitions away from the classroom chaos to the imposing, traditional wooden doors of the student council room. The scene shifts to the student council room, which is styled like a traditional Japanese hall. A secret meeting is underway between several imposing figures. The council president, Hattori Zanzo, sits at the head of the table. He cuts to the chase, asking the group for confirmation on the transfer student, Kazama Endo, and if he is truly a ninja of the Fuma clan. The members around the table react to the question with varying degrees of concern and contempt, showing the tension between the different factions present. The president directs his question towards Hachisuka. Another member, Izumo, seems flustered, admitting he was surprised to hear the name Kazama, as it didn't register when he first met him. Hattori Zanzo presses Izumo, questioning if he was aware of Kazama's unusual combat abilities when he scouted him for the school. Izumo insists that this development was not part of his plan. With a defiant smirk, Izumo admits he brought Kazama to the school specifically to challenge the council's power. However, he confesses that he never predicted Kazama would be from the notorious Fuma clan. Changing topics, the president asks Hachisuka if it's safe to assume his faction won't cause any trouble in the ongoing ninja war. Hachisuka confirms they will stay in line. Despite his calm exterior, a heart rate monitor line suggests the president, Hattori Zanzo, is experiencing internal stress. His eyes narrow as he processes the dangerous new variable that is Kazama. In a sudden act of aggression, President Zanzo uses his ninjutsu to strike Izumo with an invisible force, causing him to cry out in pain and shock. The other council members are stunned. They can't believe their composed and collected president would resort to using his powers during a meeting. The Koga clan member Mochizuki Goten tells Hachisuka not to lie, asserting that the president lets nothing slide. The members now seriously consider the threat level of the Fuma clan. President Zanzo delivers a chilling verdict. A ninja powerful enough to ally with the Fuma clan would be able to win the entire Ninsen, the ninja war, without any effort. The key players of the council are revealed, Student Council President Hattori Zanzo, and Fujibayashi Zen of the IGA clan, alongside Mochizuki Goten and Kirigakure Tatsuman of the Koga clan. They all recognize that Kazama has the potential to shatter the delicate balance of power. The scene changes again, this time to the ping-pong club room. The bully Manta is reporting to the club's leaders about the new transfer student, Kazama Endo. Manta explains that Kazama is arrogant and asks the club to put him on lock. He taps his phone, indicating he's ready to transfer payment for the job. The club's leader, a bald student named Honegishi Toru, accepts the job. He shows Manta a calculator displaying the price, 300,000 yen, and asks if he can afford it. Manta is shocked at the steep price, far higher than the usual rate. The other leader, Busujima Tomomaru, casually explains that Kazama isn't a usual target. Busujima continues, noting that Kazama's reputation as a tough delinquent is so great that even third-year students have heard of him. Manta nervously points out the price is 5 times the norm. To test his commitment, the leaders force Manta to stuff his mouth with ping-pong balls until he gags. As Manta struggles not to choke, the leaders mock him. Honegishi cruelly jokes that he looks like a sea turtle laying eggs. While Manta finally spits out the balls, one of the club members mentions that the student council is also interested in recruiting Kazama. This gives Honegishi an idea. Honegishi and Busujima decide on their plan. They will ambush Kazama, beat him down, and force him to become their subordinate before the student council can get to him. The two unaffiliated ninja leaders, Honegishi Toru and Busujima Taramaru, share a grin. With a new major player in the game, things at the school are about to get much more entertaining. In stark contrast to the brewing conflict, the scene shifts to a peaceful, wide-open riverbank on a quiet afternoon. As they walk along the quiet riverbank, an overwhelmed Kinoshita timidly thanks Kazama, not just for saving him, but for walking him home. Kazama, ever nonchalant, just shrugs it off, saying they happen to be heading in the same direction anyway. Kinoshita laughs, calling himself an otaku and a weirdo. Admitting his loneliness makes him jealous. To his shock, Kazama tells him he's a good guy, not weird at all, something no one has ever said to him before. Kinoshita finds it funny that a delinquent like Kazama could be so nice. Just then, Kazama casually flicks a cigarette, but breaking the rules and reminding Kinoshita that he is, indeed, a delinquent. As they walk through a park, another person comes into view. It's the pompadour-wearing delinquent from the ping-pong club, Busujima Tomomaru, jogging towards them with a confident smirk. Without warning, Busujima launches an attack. Kazama instantly shoves Kinoshita to safety while simultaneously blocking a powerful punch. Kinoshita can only stare, stunned by the sudden ambush. Busujima seems impressed with Kazama's block, complimenting his punch and acknowledging that he's not just any ordinary punk. He identifies Kazama as a super delinquent, a title for those with extraordinary abilities. The two now face each other, ready for a serious fight. Kazama closes the distance in an instant, delivering a vicious hook to Busujima's torso that lands with incredible force. The impact knocks the wind out of Busujima, who doubles over, gasping for air as spit flies from his mouth. Clutching his bruised ribs, Busujima is stunned by the power behind the body shot. He questions if it was some kind of ninjutsu, but realizes it was just Kazama's raw physical strength. Busujima stumbles backward, coughing violently from the force of the blow, while Kazama and a worried Kinoshita watch on. As he recovers, he is watched by Kazama, a terrified Kinoshita, and several innocent bystanders who are now caught in the middle of the confrontation. Busujima tries to save face, claiming the punch was an inevitable act, and that it wasn't his fault, since he was only targeting Kazama and Kinoshita. He continues his excuse, stating that the unexpectedly nasty body shot caused him to lose control and unleash his power without thinking. Kazama just looks on, unamused. With that, Busujima reveals his special ability. A strange, swirling smoke emanates from his body, and in an instant, all the bystanders in the park, and even a dog, collapse unconscious. He announces that his ability is a poison type. As Kinoshita starts to feel the effects, Busujima warns them that the entire area will be contaminated for a while. The attack is identified as chemical Ninpuuchou, thinner. A hazy smoke fills the park. Kazama notes the smell of paint thinner as Kinoshita complains that his eyes are spinning. Enraged that Busujima has broken the delinquent code by harming innocent outsiders, Kazama's expression hardens. He states that now, he won't be showing any mercy. Having saturated the area with his thinner jutsu, a powerful neurotoxin, Busujima believes he has secured a decisive advantage in the fight. However, he has made a fatal miscalculation. While Kinoshita is clearly affected by the poison, Kazama stands firm, his eyes narrowed and completely unfazed. Busujima stares in disbelief, realizing that his ultimate technique, the thinner jutsu, is having no effect on Kazama whatsoever. He can't comprehend it. Everyone else in the park is completely knocked out by the fumes. Kazama, being the closest, should have been the first to fall, yet he's the only one it isn't working on. Kazama takes a long drag from his cigarette, inhaling the toxic air. He calmly states that the chemical smell feels familiar, revealing the shocking truth. He's also tolerant to the poison. With his ninjutsu rendered useless, Busujima realizes his only choice is to engage in a hand-to-hand brawl. Though it isn't his specialty, he prepares to charge. With his ninjutsu nullified, Busujima bets everything on a hand-to-hand assault, rushing forward to land a decisive blow on a seemingly defenseless Kazama. But the punch never lands. It's stopped by a solid guard of smoke that Kazama casually exhales. Busujima stares in shock, finally understanding the true, bizarre nature of Kazama's Fuma ninjutsu. Kazama takes a final drag from his cigarette, remarking that he's smoked enough for the day, enough to finally use both of his arms. He then unleashes his full power. Two giant, tattooed arms made of solid smoke materialize beside him as he announces the name of his technique, Fuma Shuriken. Busujima is terrified, unable to comprehend what he's seeing. He can't believe Kazama has created two massive, tangible arms out of pure smoke. The smoke arms grab Busujima, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Kazama calmly stands by, explaining that his arms can both catch and hit, and that this is straight-up brutal. With Busujima helpless in his grasp, Kazama coldly taunts him, telling him he'd better use his own fist to defend himself, or he'll die. With a casual flick of his smoke arms, Kazama sends Busujima flying through the air like a ragdoll. Suddenly, an invisible object strikes Busujima mid-air. Kazama is confused, thinking it was just a rock. But Busujima knows he was hit by something he couldn't see. Another super delinquent power. The fight continues by the water. The victim of the attack is baffled, unable to see what hit him. He wonders if he's facing another user of a super delinquent power, completely unaware that his opponent's ability is far more sinister. The attacker reveals himself. It's Honegishi Toru, Busujima's partner. Busujima is relieved, pleading for Toru to use his ninjutsu, since his own poison was useless against Kazama. The muscular man turns to his companion, a delinquent with a prominent pompadour named Toru. He thanks Toru for saving him and admits his own poison-type ability was useless. He now places his hope in Toru's ninjutsu to defeat the masked opponent. Honegishi unleashes his power. With a flick of his finger, he sends another invisible projectile flying through the air. Across the field, the masked ninja unleashes another attack, flicking a small projectile with incredible speed. In the lower panel, Toru braces himself, anticipating the invisible assault. The projectile slams into Kazama's chest, causing him to grunt in pain. Honegishi mocks him, asking if it hurts, while Kazama wonders what the hell he's being hit with. The attack lands, and the muscular man cries out in pain. The masked ninja taunts him from a distance, remarking that a normal person would have already passed out. Toru yells in frustration, unable to comprehend what kind of projectile is being used against them. Honegishi reveals the weapon he used, a suntetsu, a traditional ninja tool. He then explains his power. His bloodline ninjutsu allows him to turn anything he touches completely invisible. The masked ninja smugly reveals his secret. He possesses a bloodline ninjutsu that renders any object he touches completely invisible. The first attack was a simple ball bearing, making it an undodgeable weapon for those who can't see it. He calls it a see-through type ninjutsu. Because his attacks are unavoidable concealed weapons, he boasts that it's impossible for Kazama to dodge them. He continues to strategize, knowing he must maintain distance. Getting too close would put him in range of his opponent's smoke arms. His best bet is to rely on his unavoidable, long-range attacks to secure a quick victory. Honegishi decides on his strategy. Keep his distance and use his unavoidable attacks to end the fight quickly before Kazama's smoke can reach him. His plan goes into action. Toru is caught in a barrage of invisible strikes, his body violently reacting to the multiple impacts hitting him at once. He puts his plan into action, unleashing a rapid-fire volley of invisible projectiles that pelt Kazama's body. From a safe distance, the masked ninja continues his relentless assault, flinging more invisible projectiles. Toru and his companion are completely overwhelmed, caught in a cloud of dust and debris from the unseen attacks. Busujima cheers his partner on, telling him not to let Kazama's smoke arms hold him forever. From a distance, Honegishi continues to launch his invisible assault, but both attackers are left speechless. Despite being hit by a barrage of attacks strong enough to demolish stone doors, Kazama isn't even trying to call back his ninjutsu or defend himself. The story flashes back to 2 years ago at Jinshin High School. On a day with blooming cherry blossoms, someone crushes a soda can under their foot. A young delinquent with slick-back blonde hair, Busujima, sits alone, smoking. He looks over his shoulder and calls out to someone, asking if they are a ninja. A young man with a buzz cut, Kazama and Jin, approaches Busujima. He confirms that he's a ninja too and suggests they should get along. Later, the two discuss their ambitions. Anjin asks Busujima if he thinks they can do it. Busujima confidently replies, reminding Anjin that they've already put the whole school on lock, distinguishing themselves from the established IGA or Koga ninjas. Standing over a group of defeated students, they clarify their goal, to kick the student council's ass and seize control of the ninja school. The two look at each other with conviction. Busujima smirks, agreeing that with the two of them together, there's nothing that can stop them. True to their word, the duo unleashes a wave of violence, taking down anyone who stands in their way with powerful strikes. They stand victorious over a pile of defeated bodies. Busujima holds one opponent up by his hair, while Anjin looks on, their dominance asserted. However, their rampage is interrupted by a member of the student council. He looks down on them with disdain, calling them lowly Rappa, who have gotten cocky, and swears to put an end to their attempt to overthrow Jinshin High. The student council member, revealing himself to be Kazama Endo, attacks with overwhelming force, unleashing a powerful blow. Busujima and Anjin are caught completely off guard, unable to defend against the attack. They are sent reeling in pain, spitting blood. Having effortlessly defeated the duo, Kazama Endo smirks victoriously, mockingly announcing the arrival of a delinquent sandwich. The scene shifts to the present. A man with a bowl cut lies face down in the tall grass, having just regained consciousness. It's Busujima, his appearance now changed. He recalls hiding in the grass to spy on someone before suddenly blacking out. Seeing a knife nearby, he wonders what happened to the people he was watching. Peeking out from his hiding spot, he is stunned to see a field littered with the defeated bodies of his allies. He sees Kazama Endo standing amidst the fallen. Enraged, Busujima curses his defeated allies for losing after all their tough talk. Tears of frustration and shame stream down his face as he screams, unable to believe that the third years were defeated so easily by a first year. He watches as Kazama Endo talks with a smiling, glasses-wearing boy, Miyamoto Manta. Busujima's eyes widen as Endo picks up the knife from the ground. Busujima can't comprehend the scene before him. He wonders why Endo and Manta are smiling, questioning whose fault it is that he's in this situation. His anger boils over as he watches the two act buddy-buddy. Manta suggests they get something to eat, while Endo insists Manta should go to a hospital first. Unable to contain his rage any longer, Busujima bursts from his hiding spot, screaming about how he hates seeing the two of them getting along. He lunges forward, knife in hand, aiming for Kazama Endo. Miyamoto Manta looks on in shock as Busujima closes in. Busujima grabs Manta, holding the knife to him. He glares at Endo, while Manta shouts in a mix of fear and defiance. Kazama Endo, completely unfazed, lights a cigarette. He glances at Manta and praises his courage, calling him insane, but admitting he has guts for trying to protect him from a knife attack. Then, with a casual movement, Endo's hand intercepts the blade, effortlessly stopping Busujima's furious lunge. He tells Manta he has his mad respect, as Busujima screams in helpless rage, completely overpowered. A strange, smoky energy emanates from Kazama Endo's hand as he effortlessly holds back Busujima's knife. Miyamoto Manta looks on, stunned by the bizarre display of power. Manta is shocked to see a hand made of smoke. Endo looks down on Busujima with contempt, calling him lame and not even worthy of the ground Manta stands on, leaving Busujima speechless. Endo continues his verbal assault, declaring that Busujima isn't a normal person, and he certainly isn't a delinquent either. With a final, crushing insult, Endo dismisses him entirely, saying he's just a plain old sucker. The words hit Busujima with physical force. The scene shifts to a busy street, where a black luxury car has stopped. A powerfully built man in a suit steps out, identified only as a tactless intruder, as onlookers and bodyguards gather. The crowd recognizes him immediately, shouting in surprise. He is Togo Hamataro, the current Prime Minister of Japan. Despite being labeled a far-right brute by some, his public approval rating is at an unprecedented high, thanks to achievements like uniting political parties and cutting taxes. He lives by the mantra that the head of the country must be the strongest. True to his words, he had previously single-handedly cleared out all illegal immigrants and foreign gangs from designated areas. The public's memory of the suppressive, bare-handed force he used is still fresh. As he stands there, two high school girls, one with distinctive horns in her hair, watch him with confusion. Then, the powerful prime minister does the unthinkable. He suddenly stops in front of the high school girls and prostrates himself on the pavement, bowing his head to the ground. The girl with horns, Kunisada, is flustered as her friend asks why the prime minister is bowing to her. She laughs nervously, suggesting that maybe her dad knew him. Prime Minister Togo offers his most humble and sincere apologies for not having extended his greetings to the new Tokugawa shadow shogun a full month after her succession. In the background, an aide curses him for bowing. The aide continues to chastise the prime minister, accusing him of using tradition and keeping up appearances as an excuse to trample on people's lives. The prime minister coolly tells his aide that he's dangerously behind the times. Kunisada, the shogun, looks annoyed, stating she just wants to be an ordinary young girl. Suddenly, a man bursts from the crowd, charging directly at Prime Minister Togo Hamataro. He shouts that this is for all the opposition the PM has silenced. The attacker, fueled by rage, lunges forward with a knife, screaming for vengeance. The Prime Minister and Kunisada watch his approach, unfazed. While onlookers scream in terror, Kunisada calmly notes the arrival of a visitor and instructs her bodyguard to handle the situation. The Prime Minister replies, "Wish is my command." Kunisada's bodyguard, the same man who had been arguing with the PM, steps forward to intercept the assassin. Before the attacker can even get close, the bodyguard effortlessly flicks something at him, sending the assassin flying backward as if hit by an invisible force. The bodyguard casually tells the downed attacker that he's lucky. If it had been any of the other ninja around, and if he hadn't been the one to counter, the outcome would have been much worse. As the attacker tumbles through the air, a girl with glasses and Kunisada's entourage watches the scene with a cold, analytical expression. The bodyguard finishes his thought, stating that the attacker would have been Chisudoed, instantly killed by now. Just then, the Prime Minister himself steps in, throwing a powerful punch that stops just inches from the attacker's face, the force alone sending a shockwave through the crowd. He clenches his fist, declaring that his fist is the fist of a nation. He explains that even when dealing with an outburst, his fist could never bring harm to a citizen of Japan. The crowd erupts in cheers for the Prime Minister. They realize with amazement that he used the gust of wind from his punch to cushion the attacker's fall, praising his incredibly humane display of absolute power. The bodyguard chides the Prime Minister, telling him not to take their work from them. The PM scoffs, retorting that the security detail would be the one to take the blame for wasting tax money if they were seen as useless. As the shogun's group walks away, the girl with glasses remarks that if the bodyguard had tried to intervene, people would have died. The lead bodyguard scoffs, saying he could have apprehended the attacker without even using his ninjutsu. Watching them leave, the bodyguard is identified as Kazama and Jin, Endo's older brother. He remarks how scary young ninja are, noting that the girl with glasses, the new Tokugawa shogun, looked like she was out for blood. The conversation between Jin and the Prime Minister turns to ninja politics. They discuss how the change in leadership among the Tokugawa has caused a change in the Anawaban, and that there are rumors of strong ninja being singled out at Jinshin High. And Jin asks the PM if he knows anything about it. The PM considers the alarming possibility of someone gathering ninja as strong as himself, while Jin recalls hearing that his brother, Endo, had transferred to Jinshin High. The PM concludes that if such a force were gathered, the government would have no choice but to concede, acknowledging the dangerous possibility of the Tokugawa revolting against the state of Japan. In the distance, the new shogun walks away with a confident smile. The scene provides historical context, introducing the Tokugawa Anawaban ninja selection, otherwise known as the Ninsen, against the backdrop of the Tokugawa clan's crest. It is explained that the Ninsen is a ritual held at the ascendance of a new shogun to select their personal security. This powerful role has historically been taken by the strongest ninja faction of the time, either the IGA or the Koga Ninja. The means of deciding the victor was through violence, a deathmatch held on the shogun's grounds between ninja chosen for their strength. In another sense, the Ninsen was nothing less than a full-blown ninja war. The scene shifts to Kazama Endo and his spiky-haired friend, Ichiya, on a train. Ichiya passionately explains their grand plan. To enter a nationwide tournament, they first need to claim their school's throne to catch the attention of the organizers. Endo looks completely lost. Endo casually agrees, saying he'll take Ichiya's word for it. Ichiya smiles, commenting that he likes how simple-minded Endo is. Ichiya mutters to himself about the difficulty of explaining their goals without using the word ninja. Seeing Endo's apparent agreement, he thinks to himself that it's fantastic that he seems to be on board. Ichiya declares that to boost their reputation, they're going to partake in a little giant killing. Nearby, another student with curly hair and headphones sits listening to music, seemingly unaware of their conversation. Endo's eyes fix on the student. Ichiya identifies him as Saratobi Rondo, a second year from Class B, who is rumored to be the strongest super delinquent in their year. Ichiya admits they're just rumors. He knows Saratobi is from the famous Koga clan and has a spot on the student council, but he never participates, and his true power is unknown. Ichiya guesses he just lacks passion. Ichiya outlines a careful plan. They will stealthily tail Saratobi to find a weakness, ensuring their victory. He warns Endo not to make any sudden moves, only to look up and realize Endo has already vanished. Ignoring Ichiya's entire strategy, Endo confidently walks right up to Saratobi Rondo with a smug grin on his face. Saratobi looks up from his phone, confused by the sudden appearance of Endo, who stares him down intently. In a completely unprovoked move, Endo pretends to stumble and deliberately kicks Saratobi hard in the leg. Saratobi yells out in surprise and pain from the sudden attack. Endo feigns innocence, acting shocked but clearly pleased with himself. Ichiya watches in horror from a distance, cursing himself for forgetting that this is exactly how Endo operates. Endo coolly stands between the train cars as an annoyed Sarutobi gets up and approaches him, demanding an explanation. Sarutobi asks what Endo's problem is, insisting he's done nothing to anger any delinquents. Ichiya, watching from afar, misreads Sarutobi's annoyance as fear. Endo smirks, pointedly repeating Sarutobi's question back to him. My problem? With a sinister grin, Endo tells him that playing dumb is no excuse. Proclaiming that being a delinquent is all the reason he needs, he launches himself forward to attack. But Sarutobi dodges the attack with surprising ease, leaning back as Endo's punch flies past his face. Endo tells him that whether it's called for or not, he just has to suck it up. Sarutobi looks on, annoyed, as he realizes something is different about this encounter. Sarutobi observes that Endo is one of those types who can't handle a conversation and whose brain's limiter might be broken. He also notes that Endo's strength seems far from ordinary as smoke-like energy begins to swirl around him. Sarutobi sighs, thinking he's screwed. Not only is his attacker weirdly strong, but he also appears to have an accomplice who looks like he's still in middle school. Watching from the side, Ichiya thinks to himself that Sarutobi isn't as sharp as the rumor suggested. He realizes that since they're alone in the train car and the next stop is 5 minutes away, this is the perfect opportunity. Ichiya grins and yells out to Endo, telling him that there are no ordinary people watching here. He urges Endo to use his super delinquent powers and knock Sarutobi out. In response, Endo exhales a plume of smoke, complaining that since he can't smoke on the train, he can only use what he's already stored up. An incredible amount of smoke-like energy erupts from Endo, coalescing into massive, powerful gauntlets around his arms. He's finally getting serious. Sarutobi's expression changes from annoyance to a smug grin. He says this is a relief. He was stressing about how to deal with them if they were regular people, but now he understands they are ninja. Ichiya is left stunned. Sarutobi's demeanor shifts entirely. He states that if Endo is a ninja, just like him, then he doesn't see why he should hold back any longer, ready to unleash his own power. In what appears to be a club room filled with plants, a muscular student named Mochizuki is busy working out. In the background, a smaller student, Tatsuman, tries to get his attention, asking if his senpai is even listening. Mochizuki pauses his workout, sweat dripping down his face. He apologizes to Tatsuman and asks him to give him a refresher on what he was talking about. Tatsuman, clearly frustrated, starts complaining about Sarutobi's senpai. He rants that Sarutobi never shows up at the student council and blows him off whenever he tries to talk to him, questioning what his deal is. Mochizuki asks Tatsuman if he doesn't like him. He then identifies the person in question, Sarutobi Rondo, a second year from Class B. Mochizuki states that as it stands, Rondo is the strongest ninja they have at Koga. Tatsuman's eye twitches in annoyance. He bluntly tells Mochizuki that he doesn't buy it. Tatsuman explains his skepticism. He notes that while people love to talk up Sarutobi Senpai, supposedly the youngest successor to the Sarutobi name, he can count on one hand the number of times he's actually seen him do anything. Mochizuki listens thoughtfully. Mochizuki picks up a small potted plant and agrees with Tatsuman. He describes Sarutobi as apathetic, sluggish, and stuck in his own world. He continues his analogy, stating that just like Tatsuman, he believes Sarutobi simply hasn't had his awakening as a ninja yet. As he speaks, he snaps his fingers over the plant, causing its leaves to suddenly wilt and fall. Mochizuki elaborates that all Sarutobi needs is a little push. He touches the soil of the withered plant, expressing his belief that Sarutobi will then be ready to carry the next generation of Koga on his shoulders. Tatsuman isn't convinced, saying it just sounds like Mochizuki is setting him up for a fall. Mochizuki cryptically replies, maybe I am. Tatsuman then presses him, asking what he imagines that little push to be. Looking out over the room, Mochizuki clarifies that he's talking about the Nin-sun, the ninja selections. He specifies that Sarutobi needs a worthy rival, a powerful ninja who can get his fire going. With his back turned, Mochizuki reveals the name of this key rival, Kazama Endo. He states his firm belief that Endo is the key to Sarutobi Rondo's awakening. Tatsuman glares with an intense, furious expression, clearly shocked or angered by the mention of Kazama Endo's name. The scene abruptly shifts. The rumbling sound effects transition us to a speeding train, moving along its tracks. The view then cuts to the empty interior of one of the train cars. On that very train, a battle is already in progress. Kazama Endo takes a heavy punch to the face from Sarutobi Rondo, who wears a calm expression and large headphones. Endo is thrown back by the force of the blow. Rondo looks on dispassionately, commenting that the hit looked painful. A third person, a student with spiky hair, watches in disbelief. He exclaims that Sarutobi Senpai is just wailing on Endo, but he can't figure out what's happening, though he suspects it must be some kind of bloodline ninjutsu. The spectator looks on from a distance as the fight continues down the train car. He realizes his mistake, admitting that he misjudged him, and that Sarutobi Senpai is as strong as the rumors say. Endo, spitting blood from his mouth, thinks to himself how strange the fight is. Despite the flurry of attacks, he hasn't been able to land a single hit on Rondo. Endo steps forward, trying to attack again, but he feels that the rhythm of his attacks is totally off. Rondo, with his headphones on, effortlessly dodges another powerful punch that smashes into the train wall. The realization finally hits Endo. He understands that Rondo has been moving in time with the sounds around them to screw up his tempo. It's a sound. The sound is hitting his ears late, which is why his attacks aren't landing. He finally understands Rondo's superpower. Rondo confirms Endo's realization. He states that the Sarutobi clan are sound-type ninjas, and their bloodline ninjutsu allows them to manipulate sound in the air, including melodies and the like. Rondo, in turn, analyzes his opponent. He notes that Endo's ninjutsu, on the other hand, is likely the big arm of smoke he has got, which he can turn into solid matter. Rondo analyzes Endo's technique, noting that turning smoke into solid matter means his style is a direct, close-range type focused on throttling the target, a rather uncommon form of ninjutsu. Rondo boasts that even though Endo understands his power, his attacks still haven't hit and never will. He's confident he can shut him down easily, but his gaze shifts, already thinking about the other variables in the fight. Rondo glances at the spectator, Ichiya, standing at the end of the car. He notes that the problem is the middle schooler behind Endo. Since he's also a ninja, he can't just be ignored. With a determined look, Rondo decides he has to make sure they don't bother him with this again by giving them a good, hard lesson. Ichiya looks on, horrified. Endo spits a glob of blood onto the train floor. Rondo notes they only have 2 minutes until the next station, which is a big one, so he'd better wrap this up quick. However, Endo grins through his bloodied teeth, smoke swirling around him. He tells Rondo he seems pretty tough and declares, "I like ya." The scene flashes back to Rondo's past. While his training to succeed the legendary name of Sarutobi Sasuke was difficult, he never truly struggled with anything in particular, seen here effortlessly leaping across poles over water. The flashback continues, showing that in all aspects of his life, studies, sports, socializing, and regular education, he excelled without effort. He could only wonder why other people struggled with them. This constant, effortless success was a hollow victory. It left the young Rondo with a profound sense of emptiness, with nothing. A close-up on his younger, bored face reveals his inner turmoil. Everything he did felt boring, and he had nothing to look forward to in life. This deep-seated apathy did not go unnoticed. His birth father, the head of the clan, Sarutobi Sasuke the 38th, grew concerned. Under a crescent moon, in an attempt to give his prodigy son some motivation, Rondo's father challenged him to a no-holds-barred fight. The fight was brutal. His father, with his face covered, landed a devastating blow. A once-in-a-lifetime genius Rondo may have been, but he was only 12 years old at the time. The sheer difference in strength between the boy genius and his seasoned father was overwhelming, leaving young Rondo defeated and with his back up against the wall for the first time. The scene snaps back to the present. Ichiya, watching the tracks blur by, realizes with panic that they're only 2 minutes from Omiya Station and that the situation is not looking good for Endo. Ichiya watches the distant figures of Rondo and Endo fighting, concluding that Endo is at a bigger disadvantage than he imagined. He decides their best option is for him to step in and break them up. But he hesitates, seeing the intense stare down between Rondo and Endo. There's a palpable tension between the two fighters that gives him pause. Ichiya realizes with a jolt of fear that he can't intervene. Rondo's piercing gaze is locked onto him, preventing him from getting close. He curses his own limitations, realizing that on this train during the day, there are barely any shadows for him to use. At this rate, he can't give Endo any backup with his ninjutsu. As Rondo lunges forward for what looks like a finishing blow, Ichiya grits his teeth in frustration, believing they're out of time and Endo is about to lose. Suddenly, Rondo stops in his tracks, surprised. Endo has activated his own ninjutsu, manifesting a large, swirling arm of smoke. Endo swings the massive smoke appendage towards Rondo, who is braced for the unconventional attack. Endo admits that he tried like hell, but with Rondo screwing with his rhythm, hitting him normally was impossible. So, he combined both his arms into one big arm. Rondo looks on in shock as the giant hand closes in. The giant smoke arm catches Rondo midair, engulfing his torso. Endo smirks, declaring that if he's caught him like this, he should be able to land a hit without worrying about rhythm. Rondo can't believe he couldn't dodge the attack. Endo admits he was running low on smoke, but making the arm huge was the right call. From the sidelines, Ichiya cheers, impressed that Endo's brain finally kicks in during a real fight. Holding Rondo captive in his giant smoke hand, Endo looms over him menacingly. Now then, he taunts, after turning me into your personal punching bag. You ready for this, Orange-cha? He prepares to slam Rondo against the train car. Caught and bleeding, Rondo can only grit his teeth and sneer, "Oh hell no." Bracing himself as he stares into the furious, determined face of Endo, who is about to unleash his full power. Endo slams Rondo into the side of the train with his giant smoke arm. Rondo is shocked by the insane attack power, thinking it's like being pelted with stones and wondering if it's even possible for someone to pack that much power into their bare fists. Endo grins, saying that a super delinquent as tough as Rondo ought to be able to survive a good ragdolling. Rondo's eyes widen in terror as the train's announcement system declares they are now arriving at Omiya. He realizes with horror that a couple more hits like that and he'll die. As Rondo touches his chest, the memory of his fight with his father flashes through his mind, the moment of his own defeat, a feeling he hasn't felt since. Endo prepares to strike again with his smoke arm, but just as he's about to hit, Rondo taps him lightly on the chest. Endo is confused by the seemingly weak move. The narration explains a secret technique formulated by the first Sarutobi Sasuke. It's a move made to directly attack specific regions of the body and forcibly augment their sounds and rhythm. It is known as sound strike. A diagram shows that a sound strike used on the human body targets the parts that produce sound and rhythm. In other words, the technique augments the rhythm of the heart's palpitations. As a result, it is able to knock the target out via cardiac dysrhythmia, a disruption of the heart's normal beat. The text explains that Rondo, called the strongest ninja in the history of the Sarutobi, could easily stop a target's heart with an all-out sound strike. This means he had a true one-shot ninjutsu that could kill his opponent if he wanted to, a power that even his father acknowledged. Returning to this particular sound strike, we see Rondo's hand glowing. Up against the ropes and sensing his impending death, Rondo prepared to unleash this devastating power. And so he used an unrestrained, one-shot sound strike against Endo, striking him directly in the chest. The effect is immediate. Endo feels his heart stopping and realizes this is what dying feels like. Rondo is shocked at his own strength, realizing he went all out with the deadly technique. Endo collapses, screaming in agony as his heart falters. Rondo, horrified, realizes he's turned a regular fight into a murder, while Endo desperately begs his own heart not to stop. Endo, with his smoke arm still manifested, declares he has no choice. He's scared to take his old man's fists, a phrase that hints at a traumatic past. But with a look of sheer desperation and willpower, he decides that even taking that feared punishment beats the alternative. Dying. In a shocking move, Endo unleashes his own technique, Fuma Shuriken, second form, a Jura bullet, and begins punching himself directly in the chest with immense force. Rondo and Ichiya can only watch in absolute shock. Rondo screams, "No way! A cardiac massage with fists?" as he realizes Endo is targeting his own heart. Endo's heartbeat is forcibly restored. Rondo lets out a small laugh, completely bewildered. "Gotta be kidding," he says. "What the hell's with you? You're insane." Beaten and bruised, Endo lets out a sigh of relief. "That was close," he says, admitting he was about to die for real. Rondo looks at him with a newfound respect, replying, "This is it. I found it." The two fighters stand facing each other amidst the wreckage of the train car. Rondo has finally found what he's been looking for, someone he can fight all out with, without them dying. Just then, the train pulls into Omiya Station, the announcement blaring as commuters wait on the platform, oblivious to the battle that just took place. The train doors slide open, and a wave of people floods into the car. Ichiya is pushed back by the crowd, shouting in surprise as they pour in. The train car is instantly packed shoulder to shoulder with commuters, the chaos of daily life completely overwhelming the scene of the intense ninja duel. Ichiya is squished and trapped in a crowd, unable to move. He panics, wondering what happened to Endo and Sarutobi Senpai. By the time Ichiya gets out of the train and onto the platform, Endo and Rondo are nowhere to be seen. The train pulls away as he shouts, having lost sight of them. Meanwhile, Endo and Rondo stand further down the platform. Endo asks, "Now what?" And Rondo replies that he doesn't think Endo's friend, Ichiya, got off the train. Rondo then suggests they call it a day, since there are too many normies around and he doesn't want a repeat of their fight. Endo agrees. With their battle concluded for now, Endo looks up at the Omiya Station sign and declares he's hungry, asking Rondo if he wants to get something to eat. The scene shifts, showing the bustling city streets and shopping arcades of Omiya as the two former combatants walk together. They arrive at a restaurant called Original Ramen Oshinobi. Inside, Endo is already slurping down a bowl of noodles with incredible gusto, coughing and sputtering as he eats. A first-year student sitting next to Endo observes him, thinking to himself that slurping and coughing on ramen seems to be a common thing for smokers. This kohai analyzes Endo, noting that at first glance, he seems like a slow-witted and unrefined delinquent. But now that he's got a closer look, he's noticing some surprising details. He's surprised to see that despite coughing, Endo isn't chewing loudly. The way he holds his chopsticks is perfect, and the table around him is completely spotless. He realizes Endo, shockingly, has some sense of manners. The kohai muses that not making noise or a mess while eating is standard for most ninjas, but for someone from a clan as notorious as the Fuma, Endo is a lot more put together than he'd expect. Rondo then arrives and sits down. He asks Kazama-kun a question, but Endo cuts him off, telling him to just call him Endo. Endo turns to Rondo and tells him he's one mad, strong, super delinquent. More than anything, he drove him back and stopped him while standing his ground. Because of that, he says, "I respect you." Endo continues with his strange logic, declaring that since he'd say they're at 50-50 with each other, that basically makes them friends. His eyes sparkle with an innocent, unspiteful light. Rondo is completely taken aback by Endo's logic, wondering what the hell is with his completely unspiteful eyes. He thinks to himself that's not the look you give the guy who nearly just killed you. Endo, meanwhile, tries to come up with a friendly nickname, suggesting Surukun or Tobi-kun. Rondo is baffled. He doesn't understand the logic, rhyme, or reason. Endo picked a fight, neither of them won, and now he thinks they're friends. The two things don't connect at all. And yet, for some reason, Rondo finds himself almost feeling happy, thinking Endo doesn't seem bad at all. Endo continues trying out nicknames, wondering if Rondo's raw charisma is what's making him act this way. He suggests Editobi-kun, which makes Rondo snap. He shouts that he takes everything back, threatening to stop his heart and whoop his ass if they take this outside. Endo immediately relents, asking for one more chance. Rondo allows it and starts eating his own bowl of ramen, calling Endo hopeless and maybe just stupid. As Rondo lifts his noodles, the ramen and the broth in his bowl suddenly begin to freeze solid, shocking him. Endo points in shock, exclaiming that the ramen just started freezing. The cause is revealed as two new figures step into the ramen shop. The new arrivals are an imposing, muscular man in a floral shirt and his subordinate, a young man with blonde hair and a long coat. Also present at the ramen bar is Mochizuki, who has been observing the entire time. The blonde subordinate looks down at Rondo with disdain, demanding to know what the hell he is doing. Mochizuki, sitting just a few seats away, smirks to himself. He thinks that the man is pissed and apologizes internally to Rondo, telling him he's on his own now. The blonde man confronts Rondo, who looks up with annoyance. Rondo says he didn't do anything in particular, just stopping by his usual ramen joint with a kohai. The blonde man retorts that he's the one asking the questions. The man points past Rondo, identifying the first-year student behind him as Kazama Endo from the Fuma clan. He gets right in Rondo's face, demanding to know if Rondo understands that this makes Endo an enemy to the Koga faction. Kirigakure continues, warning Rondo that if he gets close with the Fuma, the IGA faction will think they're plotting to overthrow them and will try to crush them. He asks Rondo if he's ready to handle those consequences. Rondo casually dismisses him, saying he'll decide who he eats with, and that the politics of IGA and Koga sound like a pain he doesn't care about. Disgusted, Kirigakure calls him absolute shit for being wishy-washy and running from his responsibilities. Their argument is suddenly interrupted by a loud, wet, slurping sound. Kirigakure turns, wondering what the obscene sound is, just as Rondo's frozen ramen begins to thaw and liquefy. The source of the sound is Endo, who, completely oblivious to the tense confrontation, is loudly and messily enjoying his own bowl of noodles with intense focus. Rondo looks over, remarking that Endo's face looks gross. Kirigakure, utterly disgusted by Endo's focus on food, asks if he even sees what he stepped into. He then snaps Rondo's frozen chopsticks in half. The IGN boss then smashes his fist down onto Rondo's frozen ramen bowl, shattering it into pieces. He glares at Rondo, telling him not to act like he has nothing to do with this, as his very existence is the reason for the whole spat. The shop owner, whose name is seen on a plaque as Ashino Kohei, is shocked, wondering how the ramen just shattered. Endo immediately turns to him, asks if he's hurt, and promises to clean up the mess and get him a new one. Endo's expression turns deadly serious. He slams his hand down on the counter next to the spilled food, startling Kirigakure. Quietly, but with pure menace, he tells the IGA boss, "You're seriously gonna pay." Endo stands up from his seat, his smoke ninjutsu flaring to life around his arm. He explains that there is a motto in the Kazama family: never let food go to waste. He continues, his voice firm, stating that super delinquents should always treat food, and the people who make it with care. The IGA boss, Kirigakure, and Rondo all look on as the atmosphere in the shop changes completely. His eyes glowing with rage, Endo clenches his fist, declaring that any sucker delinquents who don't know how to respect food can get a taste of his old man's fists, setting the stage for the next explosive confrontation. On a bustling city street at night, a group of drunk office workers stumbles out, their slurred words echoing. A senior employee looks on in disgust as his juniors, already drunk on his tab, shamelessly ask to go golfing tomorrow. Walking away, the man mutters to himself, complaining about the younger generation and how he can't figure them out. He looks up at the sky, wondering if the old saying about aches predicting rain is true. Meanwhile, high above the lively streets, two figures stand perched on opposite rooftops. On one side, a curly-haired ninja in a plaid jacket. On the other, Sarutobi Rondo, with his distinct blonde hair, pops open a water bottle. The curly-haired ninja speaks, acknowledging the troublesome nature of Sarutobi Rondo's bloodline ninjutsu, identifying it as ice style. Rondo, without a word, pours the water from his bottle, which begins to freeze in midair. The water instantly crystallizes, forming sharp, deadly projectiles. Rondo clenches his fist, the ice shards ready to be unleashed. Rondo leaps into the air and attacks, throwing his ice style, Hyosho Shuriken. The ice crystal shurikens fly towards his opponent, who deftly dodges the assault. In response, the curly-haired ninja unleashes his own technique, sound style, perfect pulse partition, a blast of force that hurtles towards Rondo. Rondo clicks his tongue in annoyance, noting that he's finally getting to see his opponent's style in action. He deduces it must be a long-range or defensive type, meant for taking cheap shots from distance. The Fuma ninja retorts that such a style seems perfectly made for Sarutobi-senpai, implying that Rondo's own ninjutsu is also a long-range type. Suddenly, Rondo appears right behind his opponent, shocking him. Not quite, Rondo says, instantly closing the distance between them. Rondo states coolly that close-quarters assassination is the foundation of being a ninja, dismissing the idea of relying on long-range attacks. The Fuma ninja smirks, pointing out the hypocrisy in Rondo's statement. You just used that move. It is a long-range type, ain't it? He says, referring to Rondo's earlier shuriken attack. Rondo calmly flicks his fingers, sending a few small ice projectiles as a distraction, which shatter in front of his opponent. The curly-haired ninja realizes it was a feint. As he turns his attention back, he sees Rondo has created a massive ice style, Gamagori, or ice sickle, ready for a finishing blow. The Fuma ninja creates another wall of sound to defend himself. Rondo looks on with a crazed expression, confident that his Gamagori's blade will slice through the sound barrier like a warm knife. Elsewhere, in a dark alley, Mochizuki Goten watches from the shadows. He had intended to teach someone a lesson for wasting food, but decides to let it go since the person is Sarutobi's junior. His attention then turns to Kazama Endo, who is standing in the alley. An exclamation mark appears over Endo's head as he senses Goten's presence. By the way, you're a super delinquent too, right? You must be pretty strong, huh? Goten asks. Goten steps out, a confident smirk on his face. He invites Endo to a go with him, activating his ninjutsu, which manifests as smoke coiling around his arm. Endo recognizes the technique instantly. So that's the Fuma clan's bloodline ninjutsu. Smoke style, Fuma shuriken. Smoke around your arm. He observes calmly. Goten reveals what he's heard, that both Ishikawa and the Prez think Endo is a pretty strong ninja himself. Endo makes a strange, contorted face, completely bewildered by the Nin talk and questioning what is even happening. Goten, momentarily confused himself, quickly regains his composure. He states his official purpose. As a member of the student council, I'm supposed to draw you to our side to preserve the balance of power between the IGA and Koga factions. A figure with a featureless black mask appears behind Goten as he clarifies his personal motive. But as a member of the Koga faction, I want you to add you to our arsenal. Goten reveals his grand ambition. He needs Endo, so the Koga faction can gain the prestigious title of Tokugawa Anawaban in the Ninsen. Cutting for the lofty speech, Endo gets to the heart of the matter, issuing a direct challenge. So quit beating round the bush. You want to fight or not? Endo's challenge is met not with words, but with action. Goten begins to tear off his shirt, his expression turning serious as he prepares for battle. This is his answer, a promise of total commitment. I will give you everything I've got. No holds barred, no holding back from start to finish. As he finishes stripping down to his briefs, Mochizuki Goten explains his philosophy. Needless to say, our way of gaining allies is to defeat them and make them yield to us. He then formally introduces himself with a menacing look, and thus I Mochizuki Goten, third year at Jinshin High and member of the Koga faction of the student council. With his introduction complete, Goten stands ready, his muscular physique on full display, prepared to force Endo into submission. In a bizarre display, Goten scurries up a wall and hangs there like a spider. Below, Kazama Endo looks up, utterly unimpressed, and states flatly, "You're kinda weird, dude." Goten lets out a wild laugh, declaring the feeling of his pose exquisite. He then challenges Endo. "Well, Kazama-kun, how about you take the shirt off your back, too?" Literally, I mean. Ignoring the strange request, Endo prepares his own attack. "I can reach you, you know," he says, pointing forward as he unleashes Fuma Shuriken. First form. Endo's fist connects with explosive force, sending Goten flying backward. The impact is so powerful that Endo himself stumbles, exclaiming, "Crap, gonna fall." Stunned by his own power, Endo thinks, this much power from just his regular arm. Any regular ninja wouldn't even last against this. So this is how the Fuma clan are. He's just plain strong. Endo examines his now normal-looking hand, realizing how close he came to a different outcome. That was close. I would have been done for if it had been that arm of smoke instead. From across the alley, Goten confirms Endo's inner thoughts with a pained grunt. Yes, if it had been that arm of smoke. Goten is shocked that Endo is still conscious after taking a direct punch. "You're pretty crazy," he admits. He then mutters, teenagers under his breath, as Endo remains standing, ready for more. The scene briefly shifts to a school hallway as an explanation begins. The average amount of calories a high school boy needs in one day is roughly 3,000 kcal. Goten begins a strange lecture, explaining that daily calories also factor in physical activities. He then poses a question to Endo. "Now, that punch you just threw, how many calories were used to draw out that much power?" Goten estimates Endo's punch cost about 5 to 600 kcal. He then reveals the crucial detail. "And furthermore, it made direct contact with my bare skin." Wiping blood from his lip, Goten reveals his clan's terrifying secret. The bloodline ninjutsu of the Mochizuki lets us absorb calories from opponents through our skin. Endo looks on in shock. Goten names his technique, suction style, slave drainer. As he does, Endo's arm, which landed the punch, suddenly withers and shrivels as its energy is drained away. Goten clarifies that he technically absorbs proteins, not calories. "The hell is this? My whole ass forearm's shriveling up like a mummy." Endo yells. Goten casually tells him it'll go back to normal if he has excess calories, which it does. However, Goten coldly explains the technique's true horror. If he continued to take calories, Endo would literally become a mummy. It's for that reason that we're practically unbeatable in hand-to-hand combat. He continues to boast, revealing that if his body takes damage from a living being, it heals. "This is an unrivaled power," he smirks, suited for offense and defense alike. "I see," Endo says, finally understanding. "So that's why you just up and stripped." "Haha, I was sure you were just some pervy weirdo." Now it's Endo's turn to explain. "By the way, my little smoke trick, that thing you called the Fuma Shuriken. Truth be told, I can use it as two separate arms, but I used up a lot of smoke in my fight with Tsuruchi-kun, so now all I've got is enough to cover up the one arm." Endo explains he's out of cigs, the source of his smoke, and can't use the technique fully. Goten is genuinely baffled. "Why? Would you explain your own power when that had put you at a disadvantage?" Endo deadpants, "Hang on. You spoiled your own power first. I was just playing along, pointing out the absurdity of the situation with blunt honesty." Goten is momentarily stunned by his opponent's simple logic. His confusion quickly melts into a slow, amused grin. "Did I say something wrong?" he wonders before letting out a chuckle. "I see, Kazama-kun. Huh, quite the fair sport you are." Goten bursts into a crazed laugh, delighted by Endo's candidness. "I like that spirit of yours. I want to give you a squeeze, right now," he exclaims, thinking to himself that Endo's fairness is refreshing. Following Goten's lead, Endo also strips off his shirt, revealing a lean, muscular build. The smoke continues to coil around his tattooed arm as he prepares for the real fight to begin. Goten charges forward, throwing a powerful punch and yelling, "Not when I got this!" Endo meets the attack head-on, their fists colliding in a powerful impact. Endo stands firm, his hand now pressed against Goten's chest, having stopped his charge. Goten looks on with a silent, calculating expression. Goten smirks, pointing out Endo's mistake. "That's absurd, Kazama-kun. Didn't I explain my power to you? It steals calories through the skin. With that much skin in contact, that'd be beyond suicidal." Unfazed by the warning, Endo just lets out a confident "Heh." Taking a firm step forward, he retorts, "Like hell I'll let ya." Endo shoves Goten back with surprising force. The impact is strong enough to make Goten flinch as Endo prepares to press his advantage. As their bodies make full contact, Endo cries out in agony. Damn, I'm getting sucked on a whole different level than before. Hua. The energy drain is far more intense now. Goten leaps away, assessing the exchange. TSK. That must have been 1,000. No, 500 calories, he calculates. Looking at the struggling Endo, he adds, "Probably lost a lot of energy, haven't you?" The effect on Endo is immediate and devastating. His muscles deflate, and his body becomes gaunt and emaciated as a result of Goten's suction style. In stark contrast, Goten's body sparkles with newfound energy. Me, on the other hand, with all the proteins I've absorbed from you, my skin, my nails, and my muscles are beaming with joy. Endo grimaces, acknowledging his opponent's strength. He's tough. He's got no blind spots for Real. He's pretty strong, too. Goten grins manically, relishing his advantage. The scene flashes back to the past, to Japan's Warring States period. During this chaotic time, female ninjas, known as kunoichi, were active across the land. The narration explains that a primary role for ninjas was espionage, a field where kunoichi were especially skilled at gathering intelligence. Their method, however, was often intimate and deadly. In the male-dominated society of the samurai, the most effective and practical way for kunoichi to gather intel was often through seduction, getting close to their targets under the covers. The flashback reveals a darker truth. One particular kunoichi used her bloodline ninjutsu to not just gather intel, but to assassinate her targets by stealing their proteins during intercourse, leaving them as dried husks. This deadly kunoichi was Mochizuki Chiyome, the depraved shrine maiden. As an expert in both espionage and assassination, she was a dominant force in the world of ninja. The narration connects the past to the present, revealing that the bloodline ninjutsu Chiyome developed was suction style, and her signature technique was slave drainer. The technique's mechanics are further detailed. It absorbs proteins from a target, and the amount absorbed is proportional to the amount of skin that comes in contact. As Goten's eyes glow with terrifying intensity, the narration explains the horrifying culmination of the technique. The final detail of the slave drainer is revealed. If one is able to embrace the target naked, it is capable of killing them in one go through instant mummification. Back in the present, Goten lunges at Endo with blinding speed, wrapping him in a full-body embrace. As so fast, Endo thinks in horror as Goten activates suction style, slave drainer. Endo lets out a horrific scream as his life force is rapidly drained from his body, the sound echoing through the alley. The draining stops. Goten stands over Endo's collapsed and shriveled body. "I sucked just enough out to keep you alive, but only barely." With a triumphant, shining grin, Goten declares his victory. "And just like that, I win, Kazama-kun. Starting today, you'll be part of the Koga." Behind him, Endo's body is a desiccated, mummy-like husk. Goten looks over Endo's defeated body, deep in thought. He can't understand why the president and Ishikawa hyped Endo up so much. While strong, he doesn't seem to be the major threat he was made out to be. He especially can't believe that this is the person who is supposedly able to sway Sarutobi Rondo, the top ninja of the Koga faction. With a final glance, he begins to walk away. Putting his doubts aside, Goten celebrates his victory. But at any rate, with the Fuma under the Koga faction, we just might be able to win the Nin-sun. Suddenly, Goten freezes. Behind him, Endo's withered fingers twitch and clench into a fist. Something isn't right. In a burst of steam, Endo rises to his feet, his body completely restored to its peak physical condition. He stands ready, glaring at a stunned Goten. Goten stares in utter disbelief. He's made a total recovery? Impossible. Just what ninjutsu did he? He wonders, unable to comprehend what just happened. The story flashes back, revealing the source of Endo's miraculous recovery. The scene opens on Omiya Station, then focuses on a nearby ramen shop. This is Oshinobi Ramen, a Chinese restaurant founded 45 years ago that has been a beloved local institution since the Showa era. The shop remains as popular as ever, especially among school students. The reason for its enduring patronage lies in the philosophy of its founder. The founder and first owner was Ashino Kohei, a chef with a strong sense of purpose and bandaged arms, hinting at his dedication to his craft. Ashino saw that students from the area's many sports-focused schools would go home starving after practice. He wanted to help these growing boys who had little money to spend. His solution needed to be cheap, rich in calories, and able to satisfy their insatiable appetites. This mission led to the creation of a legendary menu item. This item is the Oshinobi Ramen Set Gift to Students Special, or ORSGS for short. It's a massive combo meal priced at only 680 yen. Despite the low price, the meal is a nutritional monster, packing over 5,000 kilocalories, making it an incredible value for hungry students. A meal of this size would cost 3 to 4 times more anywhere else. But for Ashino, the motive was simple. I want to see those starved students' stomachs filled. Do I need any more reason than that? The narration emphasizes that this meal was not created for profit. It has no wicked designs and is born from pure goodwill, a genuine desire to help. This tradition of goodwill continues into the present Reiwa era. The founder's son, Ashino Kappei, carries on his father's mission at the ramen shop. And now, that goodwill, in the form of the Oshinobi Ramen's 5,000 calories that Endo had consumed earlier, begins to work its magic on his defeated body. The massive calorie reserve finally hits Endo's gut, reviving him in a burst of energy. Goten can only stare, thinking it's impossible, as he sees the now empty ramen bowl in the vision. Furthermore, the smoke that had run dry after Endo's fight with Sarutobi was temporarily replenished by the cooking smoke from Oshinobi's kitchen, reactivating his smoke style, Fuma Shuriken. With a spectral image of the ramen chef behind him, Endo clasps his hands and says, "Thanks, shopkeep." The realization hits Goten like a bolt of lightning. I see. Now I remember. He was just eating before this. Specifically, this shop's Oshinobi Ramen Set Gift to Student Special. Goten stares, completely flabbergasted by the absurdity of the situation. Kazamakun. I just can't believe you. He stammers, unable to process the ramen-fueled revival. His body overflowing with power, Endo unleashes his ultimate technique, Fuma Shuriken, third form, Astra Barrage, launching a massive volley of smoke constructs at Goten. Goten is stunned by the sheer force of the counterattack. He recognizes the immense willpower and absolute determination to win, driving Endo's Astra Barrage as the smoke fists rain down on him. Is the true strength of a Fuma ninja. Endo stands confidently as his barrage of smoke fists overwhelms Goten, demonstrating the incredible power he had hidden. The scene cuts away, back to the Oshinobi Ramen shop. In the kitchen, the chef, Ashino Kappei, expertly tosses fried rice in a large wok, completely oblivious to the chaos his cooking has caused. Rows of gyoza sizzle on the grill as broth is poured. A pair of hungry students look on, their mouths watering in anticipation of the feast to come. All right, one Oshinobi Ramen set gift to student special. Coming up, the chef announces. Below, the result of that meal is shown. Goten, knocked out cold. The happy students begin to dig in. Back in the alley, Endo stands victorious over the unconscious Goten. His smoke arms dissipate as he declares, "Time to dig in." The battle has been won, thanks to the power of ramen. The battle begins on a city rooftop at night. Kurama, a user of the ice style, launches his attack, skillfully throwing 2 water bottles at his opponent, Kazama Endo. Kurama leaps into the air, unleashing his ninjutsu. A massive volley of ice shurikens rains down from above, targeting Kazama Endo, who stands calmly below. Kurama is shocked to see his attack having no effect. Endo, with a dismissive look, states that he doesn't even need to dodge. Infuriated, Kurama challenges his senpai, questioning if he can weave his way out of this. Just as Endo predicted, the ice projectiles are effortlessly deflected by invisible rings of energy originating from him. He coolly tells Kurama that his sound style renders such attacks useless and advises him to use his head. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Kurama warns Endo that his overconfidence will be his undoing, hinting that he still has a trick up his sleeve. Suddenly, Endo looks down in surprise. He realizes he stepped in a puddle of water from one of the bottles Kurama threw earlier. It was a setup. Kurama takes advantage of the opening. The water instantly freezes, trapping Endo's foot to the ground. With a triumphant and sadistic grin, Kurama declares that there will be no more dodging. Wielding a large ice staff, Kurama looms over the trapped Endo. He boldly proclaims that this is the end for his senpai, and that he will now take control of the Koga faction. His face contorted with maniacal glee, Kurama escalates his threat, screaming that he won't just send Endo to the hospital. He'll put him 6 feet under. Unimpressed, Endo calmly tells Kurama to listen when others are talking. He repeats that he doesn't need to dodge as his sound waves effortlessly shatter the ice trap around his foot. Kurama stares in utter disbelief as his special technique, the Gamagori, is broken so easily. The ice shatters into countless pieces from the force of Endo's sound waves. With his foot now free, Endo prepares his counterattack. He clenches his fist, concentrating his sound style's energy into a single point. Endo unleashes his own special move, sound style, sound wave punch. The focused blast of sonic energy hits Kurama square in the chest, sending him flying backward. As Kurama lies defeated and gasping for air, Endo looks down on him. He remarks that while Kurama may be good enough for the student council, he's still just a first year and should have expected this outcome. Endo watches as Kurama's body crashes into the distance. The fight is clearly over, ending in Endo's overwhelming victory. Looking at his hand after the powerful punch, Endo reflects to himself, noting that his own strength is crazy strong and outside the norm. From the edge of the roof, Endo looks down at the fallen Kurama. He hopes the defeat will teach his junior a lesson and make him less jumpy, but Kurama is seething with silent rage. In a shocking turn of events, Kurama's rage dissolves into tears. He begins crying hysterically, wailing that he lost. Endo can only stare in stunned silence at the sudden breakdown. As Kurama continues to wail, Endo looks away in exasperation. He mutters that he doesn't care about the Koga or IGA factions and thinks to himself that if Kurama was going to be such a sore loser, he shouldn't have started the fight. Through his tears and snot, Kurama screams a final, desperate threat, vowing to kill Endo next time. Endo remains completely unfazed by the childish outburst. The scene pulls back to show the vast cityscape under the night sky. Endo walks away on one rooftop, while the defeated Kurama sits alone on another, separated by the urban sprawl. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure watches the aftermath. Smoking a cigarette, he mentions checking in after hearing from someone named PM Togo about Endo's activities, alluding to a broken promise about keeping Endo ignorant of the ninja world. This new character makes a dramatic entrance, perched atop a massive billboard on his motorcycle, silhouetted against the crescent moon. A closer look reveals a man with a wild pompadour hairstyle and sharp glasses. He exudes the aura of a powerful and flamboyant gang leader, a stark contrast to the schoolyard squabbles just witnessed. With a menacing grin, the man, Kazama and Jean, reveals his ambition. He complains that he was supposed to be the one to inherit the legendary name of Fumakotaro, establishing his connection to a conflict far greater than the one on the rooftops below. The scene shifts. It's September 30th, just after 4:30 in the afternoon, approximately 1,100 meters above Tokyo, where a commercial airplane is cruising through the clouds. Inside the cockpit, the pilots of Flight 415 witness something impossible streaking past their window. The first officer stammers in disbelief, questioning if it's a bird or a meteor, before his eyes widen in sheer shock. Hurtling through the air is a massive young man with a pompadour, his face comically distorted by the extreme wind resistance. He seems to be complaining that the open sky is too cramped for a big fellow like himself. As the figure disappears into the distance, the first officer shouts, realizing they just saw a human being flying outside. The captain, in denial, tries to dismiss it, insisting his co-pilot is just seeing things. The story then flashes back to a few hours earlier in Aomori province. A young woman with braided pigtails looks on with concern, calling out to Hayami Chai and asking if he's really leaving. At a desolate train station, the pompadoured young man, Hayami, apologizes to the girl. He explains that there's no one left for him to fight in Aomori, and he feels compelled to head for Tokyo. With a determined look, Hayami places a hand on her shoulder and reveals his grand ambition. It's his dream to conquer the entire country. As he leaves, the girl tearfully shouts that she'll be waiting for him. An introduction box gives us his details. Hayami Kikuchi, a second-year student at Aomori Technical High. After bidding his girlfriend farewell, he heads for Tokyo. The narration adds a critical piece of information. This man is a ninja. His backstory is revealed. Born into the influential but minor Hayami clan, he was expected to carry on their legacy. Instead, he chose the path of a delinquent. His uncontainable desire to be strong drove him to become the top fighter in his region. Even without using his ninjutsu, all the delinquents in Aomori were no match for him, leading him to seek out stronger ninja from across the country. The scene cuts to Aomori Airport, with a plane taking off. Hayami's journey to the capital is not by train, but by a much faster, unconventional method. It's revealed that Hayami Kikuchi is traveling to Tokyo by simply leaping and falling through the sky, thousands of meters above the ground, demonstrating his superhuman abilities. His destination is a place of great significance in the ninja world, a traditional, sprawling estate known as the House of the Tokugawa, located in the heart of Tokyo. Hayami arrives and stands before the entrance of the estate. He is confronted by its guardians. His true mission is revealed: to take down the head of the Tokugawa Oniwaban, the strongest active ninja alive. The head of the group, a large bald man named Momochi Tamba, grants Hayami permission for his challenge. He tells the boy to rejoice, as Our Lady has allowed this mission to test his mettle against 3 of the Tokugawa's ninja. Without wasting a moment, Hayami shouts, "Let's do it," and launches himself forward. Tamba sternly warns him that they are in the presence of their lady, and if he is nothing but a fool, he will die here. Momochi Tamba, the formidable head of the Oniwaban, takes a low, powerful stance, ready to receive the challenger's attack. The two fighters clash. Hayami's powerful punch is stopped dead by Tamba's palm, the impact showing the immense force behind both the attack and the block. Hayami grits his teeth as he takes a blow to the stomach, but immediately counters with a strike of his own. Tamba is shocked, remarking with surprise that the boy has spirit to be able to counter so quickly. The two exchange brutal blows. Hayami manages to land a punch on Tamba's jaw, but at the same time, Tamba smashes his fist into Hayami's gut. The narrator explains that Hayami had not underestimated his opponent. He knew Tamba was strong, the same way one instinctively feels fear and respect for a snarling bear at the zoo, or the same way one can tell on animalistic level that a sumo wrestler is immensely powerful just by seeing them on the street. Hayami knew from the moment he met him that Momochi Tamba was on a completely different level. However, driven by a youthful sense of omnipotence and the thought that he just maybe could win, he thoughtlessly activated his ninjutsu. After absorbing the punch, Tamba feels a strange heaviness spreading through his arm. He correctly identifies the technique as the rare bloodline ninjutsu, Newton style. As his subordinates admire Hayami's skill, the scene is punctuated by the screech of tires as a black car pulls up to the unfolding battle. New observers arrive on the scene. A man in a sharp white suit steps out of the vehicle, coolly noting the racket. He is accompanied by Kazama and Jean, who looks on with annoyance, wondering aloud if their own plans have just been preempted by this unexpected fight. The fight continues. Despite landing a solid punch, Hayami is stunned to see Tamba still standing strong, seemingly unaffected. Hayami is in disbelief. His Newton-style ninjutsu should have added 10 kilograms of weight to Tamba's arm, and he can't comprehend how the old man is still moving it so freely. Indeed, despite the added weight that should be hindering him, Tamba effortlessly blocks another one of Hayami's powerful strikes. Now bruised and bleeding, Hayami grows desperate, believing he is just one more hit away from victory. In the background, Tamba's subordinates watch on, one mockingly suggesting they let the boy have one more hit. One of Tamba's men, Hattori, explains the nature of Hayami's bloodline ninjutsu. He deduces that the Newton style alters the gravitational pull on things Hayami touches, likely requiring multiple hits to be fully effective. Another subordinate, Fujibayashi, notes that the ability is a lot like his own graviton style, reinforcing the danger of getting hit by such a technique. Tamba begins to lecture the young challenger, criticizing modern ninja for relying too much on their bloodline ninjutsu while dismissing fundamentals. He points out that even though hand-to-hand isn't his specialty, Hayami has barely managed to touch him. The scene provides a lesson on ninjutsu, explaining that it's divided into two classes. The first is basic ninjutsu, encompassing elemental styles like fire, water, and wind, which are acquired through rigorous training. The second, more esoteric class is bloodline ninjutsu. These are techniques that are innate, passed down through generations within isolated ninja clans, and are effectively wielded by birthright. Holding up a box of matches, Tamba explains that this is precisely why he trained his daughters in the basic ninjutsu arts, rather than allowing them to rely solely on inherited abilities. As his daughters watch from above, Tamba reveals his simple but effective strategy. Against a power that requires physical contact, the key is to make himself completely untouchable. He then strikes a match. In an instant, Tamba unleashes his own terrifying power. An immense aura of black fire erupts around him as he activates his fire style, Hitoruma, which translates to Burning Man. Hayami can only stare in awe and terror at the incredible power radiating from his opponent. Tamba tells him that as his predecessor, it is his duty to teach him that fundamentals are the key to everything. Sweating and bleeding, a close-up on Hayami's face reveals his dawning horror. He realizes with certainty that he cannot possibly win against this level of power. But even in the face of certain defeat, Hayami's spirit doesn't break. With a defiant roar, he charges forward for one last desperate attack. Tamba meets the charge with his own attack, unleashing his fire style, Flame Palm. A massive torrent of fire shoots from his hands, aimed directly at Hayami. As Hayami is engulfed by the flames, Tamba's subordinates watch in shock, one asking if their master is truly going all out. Tamba grimly recalls his own words. If you're just a simple fool, you'll die. Trapped in the inferno, Hayami is certain his end has come. He believes he is going to be burnt to a crisp and die, flashing back to the girls he left behind. But just as the flames are about to consume him, a foot stomps down, and the fire is suddenly blasted away. The mysterious newcomers, Kaspera and Kazama and Jean have intervened. Kazama and Jean, still coolly smoking his cigarette, makes a subtle gesture with his hand, seemingly manipulating the air and fire around them. Then Kaspera, the man in the white suit, brings his hands together in a single, sharp clap. The resulting shockwave is so powerful it completely extinguishes Tamba's raging inferno. Tamba and his subordinates are left utterly speechless. They know that Momochi's fire style is so potent that not even a fire truck could extinguish it, making Kaspera's feat of blowing it out with a single clap seem inconceivable. Kaspera and Njin stand calmly in the courtyard, tendrils of smoke or energy curling around them. At their feet lies the scorched and defeated Hayami. Watching from the balcony, one of Tamba's daughters recognizes the man in white. She identifies him as the personal ninja to Prime Minister Togo Hamataro, deepening the mystery of why such a high-profile figure is here. Lying on the ground, a battered Hayami offers a weak, grateful thanks, believing he's been saved. He's oblivious to the cold reality, as Kazama and Jean looks down not with pity, but with a smug, predatory grin that promises more violence is to come. In a display of utter contempt, Kazama and Jean presses his foot down on the face of the defeated Hayami. Kaspera formally addresses the Tokugawa clan, apologizing for the intrusion. He states their purpose is the same as Hayami's, and, on behalf of the Prime Minister, they will get straight to the point. Before Kaspera can continue, Kazama and Jean interrupts with an audacious demand of his own, coolly asking if they would mind him being made a part of the Tokugawa Onawaban. Meanwhile, the defeated Hayami drifts in and out of consciousness, his mind flashing back to the girl he left behind in Aomori. In his daze, he hallucinates her by his side, asking if he's all right. He can only weakly cry out her nickname, Chichimi, as his consciousness fades. Hayami finally comes to, finding himself being carried in the arms of the imposing Kaspera, who gruffly complains that the boy stinks. As Hayami snaps awake, startled, Kaspera tells him he's a lucky young punk to be alive. Struggling weakly, Hayami demands to know who is holding him. Kaspera tells him to forget it and pay attention, because as a ninja, he will want to witness the confrontation about to unfold. The stage is set. On one side stands Momochi Tamba, the current head of the Onawaban. On the other, the maverick of the Fuma clan, Kazama and Jean. Two of the strongest figures in the ninja world are about to face off. Tamba confronts the intruders, questioning why the Prime Minister's personal ninja is suddenly interested in the Tokugawa Onawaban after decades of no contact since the Boshin War. Kaspera remains stone-faced, demanding to know Tamba's true intentions. From the balcony, a woman with fluffy blonde hair watches the tense standoff. Kazama and Jean ignores the question and addresses the woman on the balcony directly, calling her Kunisada-sama. He puts the Tokugawa clan on the defensive, asking about their recent efforts to gather strong ninja for the Nin-sun. Kunisada deflects, claiming she merely wants new faces for the next generation. But Kaspera reveals the government's true fears, stating that the Prime Minister believes the Tokugawa are planning to revolt against the state of Japan. Tamba is shocked to hear the word revolt, and Jean cuts through their excuses, revealing that his little brother, Kazama Endo, is already taking part in the Nin-sun. He implies that this fact alone should prove the Fuma clan's power and involvement. And Jean delivers a chilling ultimatum from the Prime Minister. The presence of even a single Fuma in the Nin-sun is a threat equivalent to a weapon that could topple a nation. He ends the declaration with a crude insult. The full weight of the situation finally dawns on the Tokugawa members. Tamba, his daughters, and his subordinates all react with shock, realizing they're dealing with the son of the legendary and feared Fuma clan. Done with the talking, Njin makes his move. With a subtle tap of his foot, wisps of smoke begin to rise from the ground around him. The smoke doesn't dissipate. Instead, it begins to swirl and coalesce, reacting to Njin's unspoken command. With a smirk, Njin unleashes his clan's signature ability, smoke style, Fuma Shuriken. Before their very eyes, a complex and deadly shuriken materializes out of thin air from the swirling smoke. In less than an instant, the shuriken strikes, cleanly slicing through Momochi Tamba's Achilles tendon. Tamba stumbles in pain, while his subordinate, Hattori, looks on in disbelief, wondering how the attack happened so fast. Tamba realizes Njin is materializing smoke itself. Tamba is perplexed. Njin never moved to throw the weapon. So how did he attack from a distance? A defensive shield of smoke begins to form around the Fuma ninja. Recognizing the extreme danger, Tamba decides he must resort to using his own bloodline ninjutsu. But Njin anticipates this, interrupting with a sharp "not on my watch." In a horrifying display of power, Njin materializes not one, but a massive swarm of Fuma shuriken from the smoke, surrounding the injured Tamba completely. Completely surrounded, Tamba and his subordinate Fujibayashi stare in horror as dozens of shuriken materialize out of thin air. Fujibayashi recognizes the technique with dread, realizing he is witnessing a legendary power he thought was only a myth. Njin confirms their fears with a boastful lecture. He explains that while his little bro Endo is limited to close-range attacks using the smoke around his own body, his own power is far superior, allowing him to materialize and manipulate any smoke in the area. He has absolute long-range dominance over his trapped prey. With the injured Tamba completely surrounded, Njin unleashes his swarm of shuriken. As the attack rains down, he casually remarks that his own power is nothing compared to the old man he and his brother hate so much, hinting at an even greater threat within the Fuma clan. Unable to defend himself, Momochi Tamba is mercilessly torn apart by the dozens of materialized shuriken. As Kaspera and the other Tokuwa ninja watch in horror, Njin coolly declares one down. The battle is over. Tamba lies defeated in the courtyard. Now completely bored, Njin turns his attention to the remaining Tokugawa members, including Kunisada on the balcony. With a predatory grin, he declares the whole thing annoying and challenges all of them to take him on at once. In a fast food restaurant, a young man with spiky blonde hair, Endo, asks his friend Kazama about his older brother. Kazama, a muscular young man with two-toned spiky hair, pauses mid-bite, seemingly unenthused by the question. As Endo presses on, mentioning the legendary Fuma clan name of Kotaro, Kazama struggles to find the right words to describe his brother. He admits that beyond being incredibly strong like himself, his brother is, in a word, scary. The scene shifts, showing the consequences of this scariness. A person lies beaten on the ground outside a traditional estate. Endo continues, saying even he has never seen his brother so unhinged, a man who does whatever he wants, making him terrifying in a way their delinquent father never was. Elsewhere, two young women in school uniforms react with shock. The one with glasses and another with large, horn-like twin tails can't believe their eyes. A man named Momochi Tamba has been defeated in an unbelievably short amount of time. The scene of the fight is shown. A man with long blonde hair tied back, identified as Fujibayashi, launches an attack against an older man with a goatee. However, they're not fighting each other. Both Fujibayashi and his companion turn their attention to a new opponent, a smug, powerfully built man in sunglasses and a black coat, the Koga leader. He casually smokes a cigarette, pleased that he can take them both on at once. The older man, Hattori, unleashes a powerful ninjutsu attack, wind style, whirlwind fist, sending a vortex of energy directly at the Koga leader. The Koga leader is unfazed, remarking on their good thinking. An observer praises Hattori for clearing away the smoke, revealing the Koga leader's only materialized weapon, a large Fuma shuriken on his back. The plan is to capitalize on this weakness and go for a direct attack. Seizing the opportunity, Fujibayashi closes the distance and launches a powerful kick at the Koga leader's head. To Fujibayashi's astonishment, his rapid-fire kicking is effortlessly blocked by the Koga leader with just one hand. But Fujibayashi declares that the hand-to-hand combat is merely a setup for his real move. Before Fujibayashi can act, the Koga leader unleashes his own technique, bloodline ninjutsu, graviton style. An immense pressure pushes down on Fujibayashi, forcing him to his knees. From a distance, Hattori observes with alarm. He notices that the massive shuriken on the Koga leader's back seemed to move ever so slightly, a detail that clearly troubles him. Sensing imminent danger, Hattori yells for Fujibayashi to get back, a bad feeling washing over him as he watches the Koga leader hold his ally in place. The Koga leader smirks, calling Hattori's warning too little, too late. He reveals that while the wind technique cleared the smoke around him, it failed to clear the smoke that had gathered behind Hattori. As Hattori turns in shock, a piece of the Fuma shuriken, previously thought to be just on the Koga leader's back, flies out from the smoke behind him and strikes him down. Fujibayashi can only watch in horror as Hattori is brutally impaled through the chest by the unexpected attack. The battle is over. Fujibayashi and Hattori lie defeated on the ground. The Koga leader stands victorious, accompanied by another mysterious figure in a hat, as he stomps on the shuriken piece that delivered the final blow. Looking up at the estate, the Koga leader addresses a figure on the balcony, Kunisama, the young woman with the horn-like hair. He asks if his display of power was convincing enough for her. He taunts Kunisada, asking if the other Kunoichi wants to fight as well. He then gets to his point, demanding that she appoint him to the Tokugawa Anawaban, the shogun's elite group of spies and guards. Kunisada's subordinate explains the political situation. Prime Minister Togo suspects the Tokugawa are rearming. By forcing the Koga leader onto the Anawaban, Togo is placing his own watchdog on Kunisada, trapping her in a cage. The subordinate realizes the terrifying implications. In the worst-case scenario, the Prime Minister is plotting the downfall of the Tokugawa family, or even Kunisada's assassination. Something must be done. On the blood-soaked ground, the defeated Hattori tells Fujibayashi that even with their loss, he must know that the Nin-sun, the shinobi selection, is still ongoing. The words of the previously defeated Momochi Tamba echo, stating that young, powerful shinobi from all over are locked in heated combat for a chance to compete in Kunisada's presence. On the balcony, Kunisada trembles, sweating under the pressure. Pushed to her limit and with tears of frustration, Kunisada makes a bold proclamation. She will halt the selection of the Anawaban, refusing to appoint anyone until a shinobi appears who is undeniably stronger than the monster who just decimated her forces. Down below, the Koga leader simply smirks at her declaration. He is unfazed, seeing this only as a future opportunity for more chaos. To him, if this means he eventually gets a chance to crush other powerful contenders like Indo, he welcomes the challenge. The story shifts to a historical flashback, telling the tale of men who wished to cause chaos and ruin. Among them was a band of violent outlaws known as the Rappa. They were the Fuma clan, and their formidable leader was the ninja known as Fumakotaro. In the mountain passes, the Fuma clan terrorized the countryside. They robbed and plundered, targeting both commerce and weapons, until the local people could no longer bear their tyranny. In response, Hojo Eugenio, the lord of Odawara Castle and governor of Sagami, was determined to wipe out the Fuma clan. He rallied a force and led them into the mountains to subdue the outlaws. However, the first Fumakotaro, a giant standing 2 meters tall, possessed almost fiendish power. He single-handedly crushed Hojo's men, a display of strength that left the lord in awe. Having witnessed this incredible power, Hojo Eugenio brought the Fuma clan to his castle and turned them from enemies into a crucial military asset for the Hojo clan. A grateful Fumakotaro declared that his clan would no longer have to go hungry. From then on, he loyally served the Hojo clan as the Anawaban of Odawara Castle. But this alliance was not to last. In 1590, during the historic siege of Odawara, the Hojo clan faced their downfall and were effectively wiped out. Following the battle, the Fuma clan, now viewed as a potential risk due to their extraordinary strength, were imprisoned. A brutal fate awaited their leader, Fuma Kotaro. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the new ruler, especially feared Kotaro's power and ordered that both of his arms be cut off. The armless Fuma Kotaro was then locked deep underground in a stone cell, chained and imprisoned to ensure he could never lead another rebellion again. The story jumps forward more than 2 centuries into the Edo period. While working on building a shrine over the ruins of Odawara Castle, some men discovered a trapdoor. Upon investigation, they descended into the darkness below. As the investigators explored the dark, forgotten chambers within the castle's foundation, they found the cell where the legendary ninja was once held. But all that they found in there were the broken steel chains that were thought to have once held Fuma Kotaro, and an object that appeared to be a rotted smoking pipe. The scene returns to the present day, outside a modern high school. Kazama is seen reading a book about this very history of the Fuma ninja, but he seems skeptical, thinking the stories don't seem all that reliable. From inside the library, a mysterious student with sharp teeth watches Kazama. He notes Kazama's unusual strength and battle-junkie personality, believing he can make good use of both for his own purposes. As Kazama walks through the school, he resolves to learn more about who the Fuma really are. Other students recoil in fear as he passes, whispering about how scary he is and how they thought their school was supposed to be safer. The scene changes to an outdoor gathering spot, where Kazama has brought together a group of delinquents, including his friend Endo. A group of students watches this new crew in disbelief. They can't believe Kazama gathered them all so quickly, noting the presence of unaffiliated third years like Machi and even Saratobi. From a window, the sharp-toothed student smiles, confirming that Kazama is exactly the guy he needs for his aims. A masked student named Mochizuki argues that they need a group name. He reasons that factions like IGA and Koga have names, and to join the Anawaban, they also need to be recognized as a formal faction. Suddenly, Endo smacks Mochizuki hard from behind. He furiously yells at his senpai, reminding him that he's not supposed to use the word ninja in front of Kazama. The mere mention of the word ninja makes Kazama break out in a nervous sweat. The others question why he's so scared of the word, with one suggesting they should just use the term super delinquent instead. Kazama crouches down and tells the group to forget about boring things like picking a leader. He says he's fine with a group name, but makes one thing clear. They are friends because they are equals. Endo and Mochizuki are completely overwhelmed with emotion at Kazama's declaration of friendship. Endo is moved to tears, shouting about Kazama's kindness, while Mochizuki is stunned by what he perceives as raw charisma. Mochizuki grabs Kazama in a tearful hug, calling him one of the nicest guys he's ever known. Kazama yells at his senpai for using his powers when he gets excited. A new figure, Ichikawa, appears, and Endo calls out to him. Kazama, recovering his composure, cheerfully suggests a simple group name, the Endo Corps, waving happily at Ichikawa. Ichikawa, the student council VP, confronts the group. He tells them to get lost before they get sent packing, explaining that as super delinquents, they need to conceal themselves better because they're standing out and scaring the regular students. Kazama tries to de-escalate, acting innocent. With the confrontation over, the newly formed group wonders where to go next. They consider karaoke or Rondo's place, but Rondo clarifies he only has a tiny one-room apartment. Seeing his friends are out of ideas, Kazama casually takes a drag from his pipe-like cigarette and invites them over to his place, mentioning he lives in a whole house. The group is shocked into silence by the unexpected invitation from the usually distant and intimidating Kazama. With a grin, Kazama leads the way, shouting, "Let's go." As the group follows, Endo cheekily informs Ichikawa, the student council VP, that he is definitely not invited. At the house, the group is met with a booming welcome from a large, muscular man with a shaved head and a beard. He introduces himself as Endo's father and tells them to make themselves at home. As they settle in, Kazama casually introduces the boisterous man as his dad. His father remarks that it's been a long time since Endo brought friends over, not since grade school. While Kazama's dad seems friendly, Some of the group members, like Endo and Hachisuka, are suspicious. They note he's just hanging around the house on a weekday with a punch-perm haircut, a gold chain, and nothing but a sweatshirt on. One of the boys notices something peeking out from under the father's shirt. He knows exactly what those are: tattoos. This confirms their suspicions that there's something shady going on with this family. As his father joins the group, Kazama bluntly clarifies the situation. He states that these guys, the Fuma clan, are really just a Yakuza and his son. His father simply asks if he minds him joining. Endo, however, sees through the facade, thinking that they can't get much more outlaw than this. Kazama's father asks why he brought them all here, and Kazama explains it's the kickoff party for their team's strategy to take over the school. Endo explains to Kazama's father that the school's student council is currently under the thumb of the IGA faction. Endo realizes that if this man is Kazama's dad, he might be the current Fuma Kotaro, and hopes to steer the conversation to get a feel for things. A chart lays out the school's power structure. The student council boasts a massive fighting force, centered around the three great clans of IGA and Koga. In contrast, their newly formed Endo Corps is just a band of thugs, a mix of Kazama's friends and a couple of members from the Koga clan. Endo concludes that they need to be careful to avoid starting an all-out war. He figures there are still unaffiliated super delinquents hiding at the school, meaning expanding their own arsenal is the top priority. Hachisuka offers a straightforward solution. If they're looking for numbers, why not just weed out all the delinquents in hiding, kick their asses, and bring them to their side? Kazama immediately dismisses the idea, flicking his cigarette and stating that's out of the question. He's not looking for henchmen. He's looking for friends he can trust with everything, like them. Once again, the group is overcome with emotion by Kazama's words. His father is shocked, barely recognizing his own son. The others are tickled pink, with Endo declaring that Kazama is just so adorable. Meanwhile, the scene cuts away to show Ichikawa walking toward a building, having been left behind by the group. Ichikawa stands in front of a familiar building, realizing he has followed Kazama's group all the way to his house. Smirking, Ichikawa sees this as a stroke of luck. He had been trying to look into the Fuma clan, and now, with everyone conveniently in the living room on the first floor, it's the perfect time for him to do some digging. He sneaks into a library room, noting it's not the kind of library you'd expect a guy like Kazama's dad to have. Wondering what the man does for a living, he senses that something is off. His eyes land on a collection of trophies and a small, framed photo on a desk. He picks up the photo, revealing a picture of a much younger Kazama standing beside his father. Suddenly, as he holds the photo, a horrifying vision assaults Ichikawa's senses. A swirling mass of ghostly, disembodied eyes, noses, and screaming mouths appear before him. The ghostly apparitions swirl closer, their voices echoing in his mind, questioning who he is and accusing him of being an enemy. Downstairs, the relaxed atmosphere shatters in an instant as Kazama's expression turns deadly serious. At the same moment, Ichikawa realizes in a panic that his cover is blown, having been spotted by a long-range smoke-style ninjutsu. Simultaneously, Kazama's father's face hardens. The ghostly smoke tendrils coalesce on his neck, a silent alarm system delivering a clear message. An enemy is in the library on the second floor. Reacting to the presence of the intruder, Kazama's father suddenly stands up, his imposing figure startling the rest of the group. He gives the boys a strained smile, telling them he has to go and to take it easy. They breathe a collective sigh of relief, admitting they were scared he was about to throttle them. Upstairs, Ichikawa realizes he's in a bad spot. The smoke-style ninjutsu surrounding him feels different from Endo's. He deduces it must be the power of Kotaro, the head of the clan. The ghostly faces in the smoke begin to taunt him, confirming they've alerted Kotaro. Unnerved by the fact that the smoke is talking, Ichikawa is threatened with a beating. Ichikawa decides it's time to make a speedy getaway. He notes that the ninjutsu doesn't seem to be an offensive type, and that he at least managed to gather some useful information before being discovered. He makes a break for it, leaping from the second-floor balcony onto the roof. Down below, Kazama is alerted by the sound and looks up in surprise. Kazama leaps to the roof in an instant, confronting the intruder. He's surprised to see it's Ichikawa, who is equally shocked to be face-to-face with Kazama. Unaffected by the surprise, Kazama calmly takes a puff from his pipe. He looks at his opponent and correctly identifies his power, magnet style. Standing on the roof, Kazama elaborates that magnet style is the bloodline ninjutsu of the Ishikawa. He recalls that the Ishikawa clan was supposed to have already passed on their name, meaning they should no longer exist. With a grim smile, Kazama addresses the intruder by his full, legendary title, the Great Thief Ishikawa Gomen. He mockingly notes that stealing is Gomen's forte, leaving the cornered thief to wonder what he should do now.